So uncivilized.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of You Know What It Is, man. It is Uncivilized Scoundrels Thursday nights. We are here to have a discussion, full-on discussion about everything that we love about the Empire Strikes Back. Now, again, this is basically a continuation. We started off with Andor. We moved from Andor to Rogue One. We moved from Rogue One to New Hope, and now we are on Empire. Now, the thing is, listen, I know what you're saying. It's like, yo, what about all the other films that actually came in between, like Solo? And look, you know what? There's always the standalones, right? So we ain't sticking with the standalones. We're sticking with the continuations, things that basically would continue the saga. So I just want to stay on the main timeline here. We can talk about those other ones later because I definitely do want to come back and revisit Solo. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. Do me a favor, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification so you're always up to date as to what we got going over here on the channel, man. So glad to have you here. But I am here, not here by myself. I got the rest of the crew in the building with me. How's everybody doing? Vinny stepped away for a second.
Hello.
How are you? How is everybody doing tonight? Great discussions all around, man. Y'all had to really, well, behind the scenes. No, we're going to have to do like a behind the scenes, like BTS or something like that, bro. Like just, behind the scenes, y'all just actually hear some of the conversations, like incredible conversations that we actually have here. And X, being a therapist, is like, y'all got problems.
It was illuminating to say the very least.
Very.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Well.
Anyway, bro, what's going on, man? How you doing, bro?
Me? Oh, living the dream. What can I say? There will be a substantial reward for the one who finds the Millennium Falcon. You're free to use any methods necessary, but I want them alive. No disintegrations. I love that scene because you know exactly that Boba Fett is a badass.
Yeah.
That Darth Vader has worked with him before, and he has to stop and go. No,
like everything was cool up until that point, bro. And it would have been dope not seeing Boba Fett's expression, but just hear him in the mask be like, "That's some bullshit." That's some bullshit.
All these fucking rolls.
Yo, that's some bullshit. Some bullshit, Vader. You know what I mean? or he'd be like, "Yo, that's some bullshit, Annie. What did you say?" Nothing.
Do you want it done the nice way or the right way? Yeah. Both.
Both. Exactly, man. Definitely, bro. Thank you for being here. Vinny, man, what's going on with you, bro? You good?
Chilling, man. It was fun. Fun week getting rain and heat and weather all over the place. So I've been just dodging all the bad weather and just looking forward to getting done this week. So that way I'm freed up for Friday. Looking forward to seeing Star Wars: New Hope and Orchestra in Philly tomorrow.
Yes,
so
at the Man Center, right?
I'm excited.
Nice.
Doing everything I can to get out of work early, get these jobs out of the way so we can hit the road.
What time? You know what? What time are we leaving tomorrow? That's the question.
I don't know. I'm leaving a little bit early so I can hit up Angelo. So that's my plan. So we'll probably be leaving around 3 or so, and then getting some food, and then heading over to the theater. So I'm not sure what time Johnny's
leaving,
planning to roll out. Who knows? But looking forward to that, and then some other stuff going on this weekend. It's my birthday on Sunday, so I'm gonna be celebrating with that. So
happy birthday, early
thank
birthday.
you, man. I appreciate it. Just another trip around the sun. So other than that, just looking forward to catching up on some arts and reading a bunch of stuff this weekend. So that's what's going on with me.
Yeah, man. We got. Thank you for being here, brother. As always, I can't wait to tomorrow for real.
Yeah,
it's been a while. It's been like what, 2 years? I haven't been here in like 2 years, bro. I think
they didn't do anything last year except for Batman, which we had seen in DC.
We've seen in DC.
They didn't have anything new, so we didn't hit up. And Empire was the very first film that we seen with the orchestra, and that was everything. That got me, I'm sure both of us hooked, because we thought we were just going to be seeing the orchestra doing the score, and then there's a big ass screen there, and then they just start playing the movie, and I had no idea what that was all really about. And it's such an amazing theater, such an amazing experience. Empire Strikes Back with the orchestra was just phenomenal. And then they cycled through. They did Return after that, and then they did the sequels, and then now they're looping back through to do A New Hope. So very excited.
Yeah, definitely.
I love those. I really do. I've
done it's incredible.
Yeah, if you guys ever get a chance to see that, if they roll through your neck of the woods, definitely make the time. It's so great. And then it's like a party too. Everybody's like cheering for when their favorite character comes on screen. It's like, and it's encouraged too. Like, Chewbacca shows up and it's, Roar, Han Solo. Like it's everything.
Yeah.
So much fun.
It was crazy, bro, that you mentioned when we went to go see Batman, bro, because that was great. They couldn't. So obviously, I don't know if they just didn't get the approval.
That was the only film I've ever seen that was weird like that.
It was weird because they didn't get the approval to show or to play certain audio in the theater. So when it came to certain songs, they wouldn't play it. It was just. So when it came to Party Man by Prince, we're sitting there now, mind you, those parts that weren't taken out because it was so visible. At some point, sitting there, I was getting restless and almost there near bored. And I remember dozing off for a second on that part, waking up hearing that this dude, remember the dude behind us, stood up and was singing Party Man the entire time that he was leaving the aisle to go outside. And people were like, yo, keep singing, because he sounded just like Prince.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I've seen Jurassic Park, Rocky, Black Panther. I've seen so many films like this. Every one of them has been phenomenal. Batman '89 was the only one I didn't like because it was the only one that had all those kind of weird things that were holdups. And then it was such a bizarre version of it that I looked it up to see like what was, because there's all kinds of audio issues. Like some of the sound effects weren't in the film, and apparently that's the one film of these concert films that they use a early soundtrack for the film before it was done being edited for the actual release for the orchestra shows. I'm not sure why, but every other one that we've gone to, like Lord of the Rings, all of them, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, every single one has been phenomenal. But Batman '89, that was one that wasn't for me.
Yeah, it was the weirdest
thing. Batman '89.
It was like the weirdest thing to ever see, and hear the audio was cut out in certain parts. It's like, yo, damn, there goes the enjoyment. Yeah. But it is what it is, man. But yeah, bro, definitely I can't wait till tomorrow, man. Thanks for being here as always. CZ, now we know what and what not to do. No smacking around CC, no double dipping in food, no doing none of that, man, for real. None of that for real. No double dipping, none of that. We know what not to do, CC. What's going on?
It's those unhinged behind the scenes conversations, like the 5 minutes.
Yo, no, now, yo, Vinny, imagine like something like that happen. You turn and look at CC, she's like,
stare. The other thing, if anyone's like
making like Kill Bill, you hear the Kill Bill music.
Yeah.
The conversation was like sitting in on Seinfeld. It's like you get the chip, you double, you dig the chip,
yeah,
you dip again.
Yeah.
I think
X was listening to us plotting. He was like, I'm taking a break. I'm coming back with snacks.
Popcorn all of a sudden.
Oh yeah. Oh. He's like, honey, where do we get honey sticks? Like, honey sticks, like I gotta order some of these.
Someone's eating peanut butter, just straight peanut butter by itself. Just
you gonna have a big ass bowl of mac and cheese.
We'll describe the mouth feel too. The mouth feel.
I'm sure I've got a really nice juicy apple here somewhere too.
Or like someone's got water and they're swirling it away like a sommelier, and they're like, I might have to gargle this just to get the nuances of the. Yes, lots of fluoride. I'm getting lots of fluoride.
Yeah.
Seems to be uncivilized snackers.
Uncivilized snackers, bro. You already know.
For context, I was talking about like mouth noises, like people who chew with their mouth open, and how it drives me bonkers.
So
Not clinically bonkers checked, but like crazy.
So you don't like? So then you don't like what is it called? The S? What is it now? The
ASMR.
ASMR. You don't like ASMR? Like when they, especially because you know what? It was crazy because Scarlett Johansson did ASMR for Jurassic Park just like a couple weeks ago. And
I love that video.
Did you see that video, bro? And she's talking real quiet, but you can hear the hands on the.
Yeah,
it was great. It was.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'll have to look that up.
I think that might be fine, like talking softly or like listening to things like, crinkling things or bubble wrap or whatever. It's just like chewing with your fucking mouth open.
With food.
And like, I just, no.
So you don't, okay. So you can't watch Hot Ones then?
Or the substance. Can you watch the substance?
Or the substance.
Definitely not the substance.
That's got some great
I have not watched the substance.
You don't want to?
I know enough. No, I'm not fucking with that.
It's really good though.
That's something else on a whole nother level. That whole movie is doing something else. I love it, but I can only watch it once.
It'll make you never want to eat a shrimp again. I'll just say that.
That's true.
You'll never want to eat a shrimp again, ever. Like that's literally. True. It is terrible in that space. But we know what not to do around CC. Anyway, thank you for being here as always. And we got Chewy, new to this, man. Definitely thank you for being here tonight, man. How are you, bro? What's going on with you, man?
Good. This is I was saying before, this is a late night show for me, but I'm long time listener, first time caller. So this is fun, especially because it's my favorite Star Wars movie. So that's the other thing.
I think it's pretty much everybody's, man. Almost everybody's, man. So definitely, man. The symphony movies. We went and saw the A New Hope was here. They did a series of them through Toronto as well. And my cousin hit me up at one point and he was just like, "Hey, I got extra tickets. Do you guys want to come?" And we were like, "Yeah, okay, sure." And it was amazing. And I knew what it was. I knew they'd be playing the movie and they'd have the Toronto Symphony Orchestra doing the sound. What I didn't know until we got there was Anthony Daniels walks out on stage and does a whole introduction for the whole thing. And he was there. Yeah, he did a whole thing. He was there and he kind of emceed the whole night, which was great. Wow.
That was so much fun. Yeah. I want to go and see one of those again at some point. But,
it is. It's incredible because, like I said, it's just the energy that's there, especially with the crowd. And the music is just incredible. So, yeah, man, definitely. But the other day I was crying because I went for the run. I went for my run. I was so proud of myself. I completed my 10K task. And the missus jumped on it. She was like, "Hey, congratulations," right? So listen, she was like, "Congratulations." But then she asked, she was like, "Bro," and I almost slipped because I was in my head. I'm like, "Yo, I'm just so excited that I completed it." It was a struggle, bro. It was like literally a struggle. But in my head, I'm like, I completed this. I was so excited about it. And and when she asked me, I was about to say it, but then something in my mind clicked and was like, "You do know she does this shit. She's about that life, right? You do know she's about that life." And before I said it, I was like, "Nope. I was like, "Nope. I'm not saying nothing." Nope.
I was wondering if you were gonna reply or not. I was thinking, I'm kind of curious to what he did.
No,
she's not gonna hold you to her standard. Don't worry.
No, bro. I was like, "Yo, she does that. She's about that life for real." I've seen it. I've seen video.
She literally just came home. She was she left work because tonight was her late night. She works later on Thursdays. And she ran home. She did like her whole thing. I don't know what her distance tonight was. It was probably did 10, I would think.
Yeah. My pace my pace the other day, honest. Oh, you know what? I'm proud to say what my pace was because my pace was like an 8. Well, no, it was like a 9.5. Just for what I was doing at my age, bro, and actually getting out there and finally doing it. So I'm happy about my pace because my pace started out like literally, like my pace was like terrible, bro. It was like around 11 something. So to get it from 11 all the way down to a 9 so far, I'm X's at 8. I'm like, I'm excited, bro. I'm excited.
As a split goes, that's really good for just really starting to keep track kind of thing. That's really good. Don't be ashamed of it,
man.
Never.
I have a similar time as far as like I could eat a 10-piece nuggets in 9 minutes.
Yeah. And she does
care to make it interesting.
And I'll go no sauce too. Damn impressive.
Best time was
hey, yo, can you imagine ASMR for eating nuggets?
Oh,
this is me eating nuggets.
Considering I chew with my freaking mouth closed, that's a good time.
That's what I'm saying. She does it without smacking too. So there you go.
Yep.
This is me and my napkin.
You can do it faster. You just eat like a duck. Just
or just eating them like Cookie Monster.
This is me.
Just
Yeah,
they're like flying out. They're not
this
even
is me putting it around my neck. Yo, incredible. Definitely. You should have been with us last night, Cece. We were talking about what were we talking about? We started talking about Blade for some particular reason. We got on the movie Blade because we were talking about like this movie, and we were like, and Calvin said when we started talking about how smooth Calvin was back in the 80s and like late in the 90s, jumping off of roofs after coming from a chick's crib, and all you heard was you see a cape in the air.
His long coat fluttering in the wind.
Coat just yo. Ooh, he is out there too. He gonna be like, yo, go.
Yeah, he's watching.
Anyway, man, thank you guys for being here. We got a lot. We're gonna definitely, guys. I wanted to talk about this, is keeping in track of everything that we've actually talked about up until this point, and the influences that Andor, as well as Rogue One, are having on these films. Like, how do we see them differently now after watching those films? What is the influence? Like, do you see, especially with Empire, how dark and grim Empire is? Do we see it? How do we see it now after watching Rogue One? Is it in line, or do we, everything that we know about the rebellion, everything that we know about, the Empire itself, how do we view it from each film? Has our perception of it changed? So I kind of want to dive into that. It's going to be an interesting conversation tonight. What do you say? He said, "Stop telling secrets, damn it." You already know. Anyway, man, thank you guys for being here. Who we got? We got Calvin in here with us, man. Pedro Lopez is in here with us, man. Thank you for being here. He said, "I just got back from a screening of Empire at my local theater." Word.
Oh, nice.
That's what's up, bro. We got Chuck in the building. Thank you for being here. Who else do we got in here? Prosy Shinobi is in here. Thank you for being here. We do appreciate that, man. As always, Renz Talentino. The Substance is a great movie. Chicken. Man, nasty. Anyway, we got S Beam in the building. Thank you for being here. And Mark P is with us as well. Who else? We got Chuck. We got Del Guido's in here. We got Fig Poser in here. Thank you for definitely being here with us, man. We definitely appreciate that. Now, before we actually dive in, I do this each and every week. You already know, man. I got to pay homage at the places, of course, where we get our collectibles, man. Starting with this guy, since he's definitely on the panel, man. We gotta give a shout out to Vinny. Mr. Dunn Art. Make sure that you actually going over here to his page. Again, he got some incredible work. As always, man. You wanna enlighten them on what's going on, bro?
Yeah, man. I am constantly adding new art to the site. You can get to this site through my Instagram at Vincent Dunn Art, and it has a link to my vincentdunnart.storeenvy.com store. And all sales always have buy two get one free sale going on at all times. And on the site, you can also find links to grab you some canvas prints, some originals, I have many canvases on there, sketch cards, glass arts, and even some vinyl album art where I paint right on the album. So there's all kinds of different stuff that the site offers, and there's something that you want that you don't see. Commissions are open. There's plenty of Star Wars stuff on there, as this is a Star Wars show. All types of Star Wars content on there, as that's one of my favorite things to draw, as well as all the other stuff going on. So feel free to take a gander, and if you see something you need, I got you covered. And always adding new stuff to the site all the time. So feel free to give me a follow, and then you can stay in the loop. Have next con coming up in July, so I'll be having even more stuff adding to the site shortly for that. And just appreciate the love, support, and I'll just keep it rolling.
As always, man, appreciate it, man. Thank you for always. And again, if you need to find it, go to his Instagram page. The link to his store is right there in the description, so definitely check it out. As always, got to give a super duper shout out to our guy Ray over there at Underground Figures. That's my man Ray. If you were looking for the latest and greatest, sign up for that newsletter so you're always up to date as to when the figure is going to be arriving, or when your figure is basically, or new figures being revealed. Again, no NRD shipping and handling is definitely reasonable. Also, create yourself an account, because you never know when it might be free shipping on a figure, or on your figure of choice, or even a discount code on a figure. So definitely check him out. He'll definitely take care of you. Also, we want to give a shout out to my man Ray over there at Hawk Wars Toys. It's Hawk Wars Ray. If you're looking for anything Star Wars centered, you can actually find it over there with him. Again, nice little care package. You get the figure, comic book stickers, proud sponsor of everything that we got going on over there at the Figure Flex Friday Facebook group. Hit him up, and he'll definitely take care of you as always. Also, got to give a super duper shout out to our guy Jacob over there, Comic Relief Comic Collectibles. Again, it's not just about the figures, but also the comics, source material. Anything you're looking for, you can find it through him. He'll make sure that you get everything that you need. As always, got to give a super duper shout out to our guy Brian Wong over there at Module Case Module Space. I have that mono, but if you're looking for a display option of your choice, hit him up, and he'll definitely take care of you. Last but definitely not least, got to give a shout out to my sister Tina over there, El Deluvio. Again, she's make sure that she takes your figure from here to here with her rooting prospects, everything that you're looking for, decent options here, especially in collecting. So hit her up, and she'll definitely take care of you, as she always does. I want to start with, because I never really asked, we're going to start, because we do this, pretty much before we kind of jump into anything. We like to just talk about your first time and your experience of actually seeing the film, the first time on screen, and what was that experience, and how did it feel for you when you actually saw it? Cece, first time you've seen Empire on screen, or if you saw it on screen, VHS, however you actually saw it, DVD, what was the experience for you?
So I don't remember the first time I saw it, like on TV. It must have been, or like VHS or what have you. But I did think it was a really cool experience seeing it in theaters for the first time in 2020. COVID, the theaters, just so they could stay open, so that those folks could make a living. They had like I think $5 movies. I saw all the Indiana Jones in theaters for the first time doing that. And then that was a cool year, because like the Matt Ferguson 40th anniversary poster came out, and it's one of my favorite posters of all time. So that was just like, it didn't debut like with the movie being back in theaters because it was COVID and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was just really, really cool to see it on the big screen for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to make people uncomfy by mentioning it, but I was not alive when the movie came out. So obviously I was going to have to see it when it came back into theaters. So.
No. Rob, I can't with her, man. Oh, Rob, your experience seeing it on the screen for the first time, man.
I remember I went with my my dad. Took me. My dad was always, when I was a kid, he was always my my movie buddy. He would always take me to movies. Mm-hmm. And I had seen the original, or sorry, the A New Hope, or just Star Wars, those days
at the time.
And we had seen that, and I remembered thinking when we were on our way, and it's funny that I even remember this, but I do. we were in the car, and I remember thinking, because I didn't understand how really, I had no conceptualized idea of how sequels work. So I was wondering, and I was hoping that they got all the same actors to play the parts. I remember thinking, well, I hope it's not someone different playing Luke Skywalker this time, or Han Solo. And I remember at the time thinking that, and obviously I had nothing to worry about. But I remember we went and saw the movie, and it hit me in a weird way at that age, because I think that came out in the 80s, so I would have been 7 or 8. And I think I remember thinking that it was definitely not as happy of an ending as the one before it. And then on top of that, Han Solo was always my favorite character. Han and Chewie as a combo were always my favorite. And at the end of it, I thought, did they just kill my favorite character? I was pretty upset, as I recall. But I remember my dad was telling me, he's like, no, they said he's okay. Lando said he's okay. He's just sleeping. He's in there and he's sleeping. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, of course, by the third one, it was, they got him out of there and it was fine. But I remember it. I remember it very fondly. I remember just always thinking it was a more mature take on all the characters I liked. And I remember even more just really falling more in love with each of these characters, all of them. And whereas the first movie, while it was amazing and we all loved it, what you rarely get with sequels was this one is better and ratcheted things up. And you knew you were in the Empire. While they may have been the bad guys in the first movie, you get the sense that it's more like bureaucratic bad guys. But by Empire Strikes Back comes along, and you really get that sense that they are evil. Like there's a twisted evil going on in the Empire, and they really give you that with both barrels in that movie. And by the end of it, you're hooked. If people our age, if you weren't hooked already by after watching the first movie, this one is probably the one that hooked you into Star Wars for the rest of your life. And at least that's what it did for me, because that was it. I never looked back after that. Man. This movie is my favorite Star Wars movie by a mile.
I think this is the movie basically that is literally inspired a generation. I mean, we had Star Wars, but this one was the one that actually gave you the emotional beats. It gave you, before we ever got the cliffhangers, like we did with Endgame. I still, in my opinion, Infinity War. By far, I still feel as though Empire was the biggest. You know what I mean? Because of what we thought we knew, but then that just got completely turned upside down once we learned the truth. It was like, oh shit, what? And I thought he was lying when he said it. So I mean, like literally, it was an insane experience. X. What about you, man? What was your experience? Now I know you're going to say the same thing. I didn't see it in theaters for the first time. What was your experience, man?
You know what I'm going to say. You have no idea what I'm going to say. Lies. Deceptions. Every day, more lies.
You have no idea where I was.
You have no idea where I am. Actually, you fought as well as you lie. Come on, Saw Gerrera is one of the greatest Star Wars characters ever. And fight me, nerds. In any case, my first time I watched the THX versions on VHS, and I watched them out of order. So I started with the Empire Strikes Back.
Mhm.
And I started. I alternated between that version and this version, which I managed to get at the video store.
wow.
So I would just pick these up on repeat.
Yep.
And I remember watching Empire, Return of the Jedi, and then going, "Oh yeah, let me watch A New Hope."
Mhm.
And it wasn't until the special editions came out that I got to see them on the big screen. And of course, that was an amazing experience. But starting with Empire, which is my favorite Star Wars film, that film, it had it all. It had it all. And I watched it again this morning. I watched the 4K version of it this morning, and the movie, it's the best looking of the original trilogy. It's the best written of the original trilogy. The dialogue, the music, talk about being hooked. Everyone has a theme. You come out of that movie humming the music. Like, think about movies you watch now. You don't remember the music. But movies back then, the music did a lot of the heavy lifting. You think about Jaws, you think about Gremlins, you think about Batman. The music did so much of the heavy lifting back then. And this one, if you didn't come away, thinking dun 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 dun, dun, if you didn't come away with that in your head, then you weren't paying attention.
Right.
And the fact that this had the battle at the beginning of the movie, the big battle happens towards the beginning of the movie, and you think you've seen a snow battle. Well, check this shit out. Check this out. We are going to show you something you've never seen before on film, and it's going to be once you see those AT-ATs, it's just it's game over. It's game over, and it was something between the speeders and the AT-ATs. It was an amazing. And then you go straight from that into an asteroid field. And then you go, and then you're, introduced to someone who at the time you didn't know was Yoda. I mean, imagine not knowing that was Yoda, and then having the look on Luke's face when he's like, Yoda. He's like, I've been testing you this whole time.
The entire
to see if you're a decent person. And to see how you would treat someone like me. And I'm Yoda. What are you gonna do about it? And then going from that, you've got the Han Solo Leia stuff, going to Cloud City, show us something you've never seen before. You've got Darth Vader, and you see how merit works in the Empire, where it's like, here's how promotions work within the Empire. If you want to get ahead, and the thing is that clearly,
don't be clumsy and stupid.
Do not be clumsy and stupid. General Veers was like the only competent Imperial in that movie.
Yeah, it's true.
General Veers was like, I got my shit together. I know what I'm doing. Thank you very much. It was actually Captain Piet that made it so that Admiral Ozzel didn't know the information that he needed to know about the Rebel base. So he actually set up Admiral Ozzel to fail, which is interesting because he's like, no, I want your spot. And then it's like, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Don't fail me again, Admiral. And that ending where the whole time he's been choking people out, the whole time. And at the very end, you get that great gag, the great joke where the Millennium Falcon goes into hyperspace. He looks at where it looks at everyone on the bridge, looks back, and just silently walks away. And everyone's just
I love that.
God.
I love that.
Bro, you're watching it, and it's like
everybody. I need them.
I need some people, bro. Like, straight up, you piss me off, but I mean, it is what it is. And you just imagine, like, if bro, who was it? What was that in Deadpool and Wolverine when Deadpool was like, "Yo, I could just hear a symphony of butt cheeks." Bro, just imagine in that room, everybody just on deck, like everybody's like, "Oh shit!" Like, it didn't work, like literally. Oh man. But nah, like,
the movie had everything. It had it all. It had it all, and it had a darker tone. And the fact that, and I know we'll get to that here in a second, but the fact that you have the hero from the first movie, it's time to take the hero down a notch.
Yeah.
It's time to turn the hero's world upside down, which you look at Luke throughout the film, he's upside down a lot
Yeah,
in that
a
movie.
lot.
He is
Yeah.
upside down when
A
the
lot.
Wampa gets him. He is upside down when Yoda's training him. He's upside down when he's hanging from that weather vane. His world has been turned upside down. Here's how the world really works, hero.
Yeah.
You are going to fail, and you're going to fail spectacularly.
Miserably. You're gonna fail. Like literally, your overconfidence will be your weakness. For real.
He didn't just get beat; he got beat.
He got
Yeah,
toyed with and beat, bro.
Oh God!
Literally.
Yeah, your hero
He was
gonna
made
you,
to
and
see
also,
how inadequate he was.
I'm your father. Yeah.
And then that,
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I mean, one of the ugliest screams we've ever seen, but I mean, it is what it is. But definitely, man. Yeah, man. Thanks for that, bro. Like, I mean, the experience, definitely means a lot. Vinny, what about you, bro? Because we'll probably say that we almost shared the same experience, but what about you, bro?
Well, so I was 2. So my family did not see it in the theater. Like the first Star Wars, like going to go get something like a theater wasn't even a film experience. I remember going to the video store to rent Return of the Jedi when it came out when I was 5. But by that point, I had seen the first 2 so many times because my parents loved it. My mom really loved it, and it used to just be on. It used to be on TV, and my mom would watch the VHSs a lot. So like, I don't remember a specific moment the first time I seen it because it was just a constant, like in the house. Like it was just on TV a lot. It was on VHS a lot. So I kind of grew up with it just being part of the culture of our household, just like kung fu flicks and Godzilla flicks. It was and action movies and Schwarzenegger. It was just always all those movies were just like always on. And I remember when I was old enough to maybe really start to understand what I was seeing that on a level higher than this is just cool. It stuck with me more than the other 2 films of the OG trilogy because of how much the movie meant to me on so many different levels in a way that the others didn't. And I think the tribute to that is the pacing. There's no fat in Empire. Like there's no like the very beginning of Star Wars. It's like it's good if you're a Star Wars fan, but like it could lose you while C-3PO is like lost in the desert. Like there's moments that a child might not be into it. And then I never really was big on the Ewoks in Return, so like it was just like a little goofy, but there's so much like great moments in there that when it gets to them it makes up for it. But there's no it's good if you just get past this with Empire. It's all fire. It's all incredible. And to me, what stood out from Empire the most is how many different things stood out. Like it's what introduced me to Boba Fett. That became one of my favorites of all time. The Vader and Luke fight, and that is just absolutely like stellar to me when like Vader comes out from around a corner and he's just like towering over him. Everything about that fight was phenomenal, but probably above and beyond everything to me is in a way the spiritual hold that film had on me with Yoda and Luke on Dagobah. Because I grew up in a religious household and went to religious school, but as like I kind of grew into being more spiritual than religious. Everything that Yoda said to Luke always resonated and never seemed untrue. Everything he said has stuck with me, and I've always found it to be extremely interesting that you have basically one of the deepest, most widespread, like made up, if you will, religions. Like, because there's people who literally consider themselves like Jedi as like not even as a joke, but like for real. It's a puppet talking to this man, and it's like you never really you don't really think of it like that. You think of this as some sage old, brilliant, explaining to us how all these things that we think are important aren't important. Like you
Yeah.
don't matter. We're all in it together. All those things that he teaches them is just so incredible to me. And like I took that through my whole life. Like I
Yeah.
get if I get anxiety or I get this or if I get over like worried about something, like I try to weaponize that anxiety and think about Yoda saying like control, you must learn control and like reel myself back in. And
Yeah.
that and stuff like that is what not many movies do that. Not many
Yeah.
movies I don't think that have ever been like, oh, that was cool, that was emotional, that was awesome, and these different things. But I don't. There's very few films that
Mhm.
dug their teeth in a way that Empire did at a
Yeah.
young age. And I've always felt such a strong connection to this film. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, I've always loved the ending. Like, obviously we all know that there's not very many films that had the balls to have an ending like that, especially back in the early '80s. Like to have a studio have the balls to take a risk, like having an ending like that, knowing that it's going to upset people. Like at that time, it must have been an insane pitch to say this is how we're going to end the movie. Like our hero gets his hand cut off. Toadie's the the bad guy's son, and then the bad guy wins. Like the rebels are on the run, and it doesn't end well. Like you have to wait to see the third movie to see if it does. It's just a bizarre concept. Like trilogies weren't normal back then. You didn't just know that okay, it's going to be okay in the next one. You just had to sit and wait.
Mhm.
So there's so many different reasons why Empire is just a
One of the
masterpiece.
greatest. Yeah.
And like X said too, the music too. When Han is flying through that asteroid field and you hear like, the trumpets, the ding,
Yeah. Yeah.
if your blood isn't
Yeah.
well, you like it
Yeah.
doesn't do anything to you. Like I don't know what to tell you because I
Yeah.
there's very few moments of that film where you're just not extremely
Yeah.
because of all the different elements, but also very, very much so because of John Williams' score, which is
Yeah.
just insanely, incredibly
Yeah.
immersive. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so there's not one specific moment. It's just more like it's part of.
Mhm.
Is part of basically I bro, like when seeing I got a chance, like I said, it was the first time I got a chance to see seeing Star Wars when it wasn't Star Wars before New Hope, with my pops and my mom. That was the entryway, that was the entry point. That's seeing that in 1977 at the age, tender age of what I was at that time. I'm old, but seeing it for the very first time on screen, that was like a gateway drug for me. You know what I mean? Because I had never seen anything like that before and never really experienced anything like that before. So second time around, getting the chance to see Empire, at that time, I didn't go with neither my mom or my pops. I went with a neighbor. And Vinny, this is when we first came up here, this was when I was living on 15th Street, 15th and Walnut,
Oh, okay.
right on State Street.
Gotcha.
And right next door, it was we had stayed with my grandmother. My neighbor, his name was Vince. And it was him and his wife. And this is where it's a staple, bro. So that night they asked my mom if they could take me to go see the movie. I was like excited about it. We stopped off at Wendy's, the same spot it is off of Progress. We stopped over there, had a burger, had fries, and then we head to the movie theater. Now, it was the Eric Twin Theater. No, this was the Eric Theater that was at the Colonial Park Mall, right behind where Boscov's used to be.
Yep.
That's where it was, at that theater. So we went and we saw it for the first time. And you talking about like a theatrical experience. Anytime you can actually shoot a battle that wasn't in space, but it was in like an Arctic Hoth, bro, like you're seeing basically like these, AT-ATs trudging, through a snow, like these big behemoth giant looking things. And you can hear the pressure, you can hear the pounding, you see them. And I'm just like, yo, if I had been in that war at that particular time, I'm like, yo, what am I doing here? What do I think I'm supposed to do here at that particular time? There's nothing, you know what I mean? It was just so like, climactic. Like everything was just so incredible, bro. Like how it was shot, even the cutscenes from the battle on Hoth to, you know, just the command center on the inside when, you know, when the Imperials basically broke in and you're sitting there, your heart is racing. It's like, yo, what are y'all still doing there? Like, I'm not going to sit up here at this communication station just trying to communicate and tell people where to go. I want to be out just like everybody else. But it was
Imperial troops have entered the base. Imperial troops have
in the base, and you sitting like, what? I'm supposed to sit here knowing that, bro? Like literally. But
and that AT-AT, before it makes that shot, before it destroys the generator, it takes a step back.
Yeah.
Like shot at one of the speeders. That is my favorite shot in the whole movie, where it takes a step back.
Think about how cool it was that they went slow instead of like charging fast like a tank. Like them creeping made it so much even more amazing.
They were terrifying.
Creeping dread. Where it's like, no, you can't stop the Empire. Here it is. It's huge. And it's massive. It's massive. It's huge.
You can't stop it.
Just slowly, just driving you back. Just
modeled after horses, actually.
What'd you say?
Yeah,
I'm not an expert, but I think they're actually modeled after horses.
Yeah,
I think they were.
Yeah, it was I forget her name, but she I can't remember. I think she was married to someone else who worked on the production, but someone knew that she worked with horses. Like it was like an equestrian, it was her job. Yeah. So they actually asked her for assistance with like borrowing her horses to see just how they wanted the AT-ATs to move. If I'm right, I don't remember, but I think that's what happened with those. But yeah, talk about like when you think about epic stories, I think of like Empire Strikes Back, because we got Hoth in just the intro.
Just
imagine like and I think about even now like how expensive it must have been looking back, and I think actually if you crunch the numbers, this was the movie where they were working on pennies because Lucas was financing it himself.
He was financing all himself.
It's so iconic that I think of Hoth when I see other films have a snow sequence in any kind of action way, like True Lies, like Hannah, like those sequences in those films. I'm like, oh cool, they got a Hoth sequence. That's how I think of it.
Yeah. And the thing is, bro, it was the sound design the entire time, especially when Luke, you know what I mean, he grapples onto one of them, you know, loads the explosion, and it blows up, and they hear it fall and hit the snow. That was the sound design that you hear on these films, and when you're hearing it, and you can noticeably hear these same sounds in other films. Like they're using like certain sounds in other films. Like, you know, that's what just lets you know THS, they're just masters at what they basically do. And I don't know, it was just the whole film experience. So like we said, when we talk about the soundtrack, you have to be a genius to know where certain beats hit. Like even like the scene when they were on Cloud City, and C-3PO is yelling at R2 because he's trying to get him to actually open up the hatches so they can go to the Millennium Falcon. Just at that point, when you hear like it opens and they're actually on their way, and he's like, C-3PO, now he's kissing R2's ass. You know,
wonderful. I never doubted you for a second. Wonderful.
Yeah. I never doubted you for exactly, bro. And you hear the crescendo and the music just rise at that particular time. Everybody, and no matter how many times they show that scene, the audience always reacts to it the same way. It's just a round of applause, because again, you would always look at almost every scene that R2 was involved in as him being the actual hero. Yeah, you know what I mean?
The genius of C-3PO and R2-D2 through that original trilogy is that all of their jokes are in the flow of the film. And they never stop to have them fit in a joke and then get back to the action. It's in the pacing of their timing. It never feels forced or never screeches it to a halt. I think that's one of the things that like I wish didn't happen as much with Jar Jar. Like it's like let's stop and like do a joke. But with C-3PO and R2-D2, it was in the flow. It just nothing stopped. It just kept it kept everything going, and it worked with the actual story. So their comic relief in these films, I think, is so underrated
because it's well placed. And even when Lucas is talking about it, he was like, you know what? a lot of people don't understand is that the entire trilogy itself, everything that basically happens in these stories has been cataloged by a protocol droid and an astromech. You're seeing it actually. He said, what you don't understand is you're seeing these adventures through their eyes almost. It's basically how they've documented it. Even when you see him in Return of the Jedi, how C-3PO is, pretty much telling the story, and R2 is supplying the sound effects. Again, it's because they've really seen and survived all of these things. Like literally, when we talk about New Hope, they're in the corridor trying to get on the escape pod. Blasters flying everywhere. Not one time where they hit. I'm like, it just lets you know that they didn't really care about the droids at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't about them. But again, bro, like with this movie, seeing it the very first time on the big screen, and then like you said, we didn't have to back then. There were no spoilers. There was nothing to spoil. You didn't know anything. There was no social media. There was nothing to spoil. You had to wait. Even they waited. They waited till the film came out to release the comic book because it was a comic that dropped. They waited till the film came out because they did not want you to get spoiled off of anything, especially the dialogue. Hell, the actors, they said the actors, Mark Hamill didn't even fucking know at that time what was being said. And even James Earl Jones, he was like, I didn't know until the day when we shot that scene and they told me what it was. And he was like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, he was like,
Mark Hamill was on an interview.
How are you gonna play out that lie?
Mark Hamill was interviewed on I forget what show, Graham Norton. He was telling the story on Graham Norton's show, and he was saying how the lines he had been given that he rehearsed were that Obi-Wan never told you, what happened to your father, and he says Obi-Wan is your father. And that was what Mark Hamill thought was going to be what he said.
Well, I thought it was Obi-Wan killed your father.
Obi-Wan killed your father. That's right. You're right. Yeah, that was what it was. So yeah, and he thought that's what it was. And then it wasn't until they were shooting, and so his reaction is almost the same as ours because he didn't know.
Yeah,
and nobody
knew at that time. And it was like, how do you explain
at the premiere when they're watching it? Harrison Ford turned to Mark Hamill and goes, "Hey kid, you didn't fucking tell me that." Like,
yeah.
He found out at the same time.
Yeah, and because nobody knew, and that was the genius of and the impact. Because again, they wanted it to be as impactful, and it was the most talked about. Still to this day, it is probably one of the most talked about scenes. But that's the impact, the cultural impact that this film has basically had on everybody. It's definitely a phenomenon. And the experience I had in theaters. And remember, when this dropped, when it came out in theaters, they went back, and again, they always did this before. They re-released A New Hope, so you can actually see it in tangent, and it made so much sense. I remember paying like $5 to go see a film and stand in the theater the entire day, just watching it back and forth. You know what I mean? It was just such a beautiful experience. It's like, again, like when you're watching these films, and I want to bring this up though, because like one of the scenes, what was it? After Luke had basically escaped from the Wampa, yeah. So when he escapes, that scene and the way Kirshner explained it was it had snowed terribly outside. So they had to really cut the scene. They had to cut it short, but they knew that they wanted to get that particular scene. They were in a hotel, and he was looking outside and saw out the back. He was like, you know what? We can probably get the shot right here. They had him dress up and go out in the snow, and they shot that scene outside of a hotel.
10 feet from the hotel. I saw that interview.
Shot that scene, and I'm like, wow. One of the most memorable scenes, and they managed to put it was like a happy accident. They managed to pull it off. Like, what
Kirshner could do with that film, what he did with that film. It looks amazing. The shots set up. I mean, you look at everything that happens on Cloud City and the freezing chamber. The lighting in there is incredible. The sense of scale, where you see like the Star Destroyers, and you're like, surely Star Destroyers are big, and then you see an even bigger Star Destroyer, the Super Star Destroyer. And the music coupled with that, but then you get the dialogue, which is also great. And instead of Han Solo saying I love you too, when she says I love you, and he's like, I know. It's almost like he's sorry that he's like, I'm sorry
Yeah.
that you feel that way. Actually,
Yeah.
I can't give you what you want. I'm sorry that you feel that way. And that's why he's like, I know.
Yeah.
It's like, it's
Mm.
unfortunate.
And
That,
that,
you know,
that lighting in that scene, the lighting on Carrie Fisher's face, when
Yeah.
oh my god, it's perfection. Just perfection.
Bro, just the lighting, and that's it. Like, it was so doom and gloom during that scene. Like, the way they lit everybody, even the way Vader, bro, the most iconic scene for
Yeah.
me is afterwards. When
And
it
the
when
light
especially
hitting his
when the
mask.
lighting, this scene
Yeah,
right
that
here,
is-
he's going
yeah.
up the steps and he's like,
this
yeah.
scene right here, as soon as he's lowered down in the carbon freezing chamber and you see the smoke, you see basically nothing but fog, and then it just, there's Vader right there.
Yeah.
Watch it. I'm like, yo, that was so beautifully shot, bro. Straight up. Like, you can't, but here's the thing, it's like, yo, the scene that always kills me is when he gets off the Millennium Falcon and he was like, he was like, no, I don't trust him, but he is my friend.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Friend.
He's my friend.
I'm like, what?
I
What
don't
do you
trust him
mean?
either. He is my friend.
He is my friend. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, how can you? What do you mean you trust this dude, bro? It doesn't make any sense at all. But it's this, and I remember like Kershaw even talking about like when George approached him about it, he was like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, and not that he didn't think it was spectacular, but he just didn't think he was the guy to do it. And little did he know, like, you put your stamp on a masterpiece, bro. Like, as a director directing that particular film, you put your stamps on a masterpiece. It was beautifully directed. Everything about it was just extremely phenomenal. I loved Carrie Fisher's character. I love Leia's character through the entire film. Like, you, again, any type of skepticism that we had as fans, we were able to live through that. She was the person, she was for us, because any skepticism that she had about the Empire, it was like, yo, Han was so naive about his friend, and she can see right through it. You know what I mean? She's like, nah, Chief. Like, he's not that dude. He is definitely not the dude that basically you know that you can trust. Man. So I want to ask this question though, because again, we're doing a continuation from Andor to Rogue One to New Hope, and everything that we basically see or that we know about the Empire up until this particular point. Now, remember, this was the first time, and this film was the very first time that we got a chance to see Palpatine on screen. You know what I mean? That we ever got a chance to see the Emperor. Now, I always thought, again, I like the original because I thought the original was so grotesque, and I didn't know. I had no idea that there was. It wasn't the original actor. It was an actress who played that.
It's
role.
a woman, and with the upper part of her face, it's a chimpanzee eyes. They put monkey. They put a monkey. They have superimposed monkey's features, and it was Clive Revel was the voice.
Yeah, like the original scene, I didn't really notice. I didn't know that until they talked about it. That again, it wasn't, Ian McDermott. At all.
There you go.
It's the only one I watch, really. So I keep forgetting that there's a different version. I only ever watched the cut.
That was chimpanzee eyes, bro. I had
those are monkey. It's like I don't know. I can't remember if I read that they superimposed actual chimpanzee's face sort of over top of hers and then just blended it in, or if she's wearing a mask, a half mask. I'm not sure, but those are they're meant to be they're like chimp eyes.
And I'm like, bro, like, why would you? I mean, I get it. I mean, it's your film, it's your vision, and how you would want to make it better. But I thought this was just so menacing and grotesque that you should have kept this. This should have been
unsettling. It's very unsettling.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Like, this is
the problem was
unsettled.
With those special editions. The problem, at least for me anyway, was that he wanted to add in more dialogue there too, which is what we got with the special edition. Like the Luke Skywalker, he's the young rebel that destroyed the Death. Like they have to put all this exposition in that they didn't do in the original version, but in the new version, they get Ian McDiarmid to do it, and he has those extra lines, and I don't have
Skywalker must not. Yeah, and I mean, and I'm like, why? Because it was that level of mystery that we had in the original.
Yeah,
because they didn't say that. Like they kept it. I felt as though if they would have kept the dialogue minimal, like the way it was, kept that original dialogue, that's where the mystery was. We didn't, and it made that Vader scene, on Cloud City so much more impactful. That when they change it now, is just like, well, there's no mystery. We know.
Yeah, they kind of let the air out of the balloon really early, is what I thought with that. But yeah, like that's the one thing the biggest problem I.
If you hadn't seen the prequels, then
I was gonna say if you hadn't seen the prequels, then it still lines up with what Obi-Wan said, where it's like Darth Vader killed Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
And so in this, when the Emperor in the special edition, the Emperor is telling him, hey, the son of Anakin Skywalker, and he's like, how is that possible? You still don't know that Vader is Anakin Skywalker in this, up until that point. But if you have seen the prequels, then I mean, if you've seen the prequels, I wouldn't say ruined, but they ruined the Yoda reveal, to say the very least. Because if you've seen the prequels, like let's say you sat your kids down, and you're like, let's watch Star Wars, and we're going to start with Episode 1. By the time you get to 5, the special surprise that was played on the audience back in 1980 when they didn't know that goofy character was just playing at being goofy. He wasn't really the fool. He's really this Jedi Master. If you watched Episode 1, you know who Yoda is.
Yeah. If you're a parent and you start your kids watching Star Wars for the first time and you don't start with the original trilogy first, you have failed as a parent.
You have failed me for the last time.
I think that
you are stupid.
We talk about like it being a cultural phenomenon, and I've told friends this. Like, I didn't get that big reveal with Vader, at least, because like before I had watched a Star Wars movie, it was so ingrained in like in society or whatever that like no, I am your father.
Yeah.
Like I knew the quote before I'd ever watched Star Wars. I'd ever watched Empire Strikes Back. So it wasn't, there's no like aha moment for me. Yeah. And the same, like I've said that about, like, obviously I love the design of like all the helmets and lightsabers and stuff. And you can't go back. You can't recall what it was like. At least I can't, what it was like to see like a stormtrooper helmet designed for the first time, or like Vader's helmet, because like before I'd seen a movie, I'd already seen the helmet. Like I'd already seen it somewhere, just because it's such like so ingrained in our culture. So I didn't get that spoiled, but it is super interesting to see like the scene, or like the clips people allegedly took like in theaters, where it was actually said at the time that the film released, and the shock on people's like it kind of reminds me of the I'm not great with the Marvel movies, but it was either Endgame or Infinity War, where like Cap gets Mjolnir and everyone fucking loses their minds. Like
yeah.
Like shock reaction, but the opposite way, where it's like, oh my god, like everyone's just freaking out. That's disgusting.
Oh, okay. So it was a mask then. Yeah,
that is rough.
Yeah,
looks like
this is terrible.
This is nightmare fuel right here. This is nightmare fuel. I was gonna say, I love the Mandela effect that we have with this film, where people are like, "Luke, I am your father." It's like, that's not the line.
No,
that's not the line.
No, I am your father.
But on the playground, it was always, "Luke, I am your father." It's like, nope.
And we all thought, and I mean, I think just about everybody, we all thought he was lying. I think immediately everyone thought, well, no, that's not true. He's lying. He's trying to get him to join him. He's making that up. Because also before that, you'd seen that scene where he's sitting in his chamber and his helmet's being lowered onto his head, and you see the back of his head. And I remember as a kid, I thought, oh, he's not human. He's some kind of alien. He's got a weird head. I didn't think of it in terms of he's got all these scars. It looked to me just like a weird back of his head. So I didn't even think he was a human. I thought he was maybe some sort of an alien character, and that so when he said he was his father, I thought he was lying.
Yeah. This scene, like, again, just seeing him in his chamber, and you remember like the disgust on Piet's face when he saw him.
And then when he turns around, it's like, fix your face, Piet. Fix your
Yeah,
face.
bro.
You didn't see anything. You didn't
saw
see
nothing.
You
anything.
didn't see nothing.
Because guess what? Asteroids do not concern me, Admiral. I want that ship, not excuses.
Not
Not excuses. Yo, like literally so. And this is what makes Vader the best villain of all times, bro. Like so well done as an actual villain. You know, and again, like we again his before we knew, and it's before we knew of Anakin, before we actually needed, you know, it was just someone you even before Jedi that it was a terrorizing, polarizing figure, bro. Like I don't know, I can't even tell you how many times I've drawn Vader, gotten it wrong, but I've drawn him again because he had such an impact. But just how terrifying this character was.
He was scary in this movie,
bro,
like in a way that he wasn't as scary in A New Hope. He was, I mean, he was intimidating, but in this movie,
like he was off the leash and there was no one to rein him in.
He
literally. It's like that line in Rebels when the Grand Inquisitor's like, "You have no idea what you've unleashed here today. You have no idea.
None.
Some fate's worse than death." And it's like, yes, this is literally. I mean, it's his theme.
Oh,
is
what
the
Vader would have
Imperial
done.
March.
Yeah.
So it's and his theme is all over Empire Strikes Back. Like literally, his theme.
It's one of those. He's one of those characters that sort of transcends the movie that he's in. He is such a pivotal part of all of Star Wars. It doesn't matter which, like, prequels, sequel, like, it's all about. That's the thing that Lucas always said, is that it's the entire story is about the rise, fall, and redemption of Anakin Skywalker. That's what Star Wars is, and
that's what it was.
This movie lets you see him at his worst. Like, he is, like that scene where he's got when they've gotten to Cloud City and he's got Han Solo on the torture thing. Yeah, and it's just she's torturing, and then later on he'd bring him back into the room with Leia, and he's like, they never even asked me any questions.
Yeah,
he just wanted to torture him.
Yeah,
because he needs Luke to feel the pain.
Yeah,
he's like, my friends, they're in pain. It's like, yes, I need you to feel this pain, but I don't need to ask you any questions.
Exactly, and the fact that Han Solo is even, he's just like, they never asked me any questions. Like, he's even shocked
on the ground. Like he's there for everything. Like he shows up. Like he doesn't just send people. Like he's there. Like he goes to Hoth. He goes to, like, wherever they're at. It's like he's on it.
That's a terrifying scene, actually, when he shows up on Hoth. It's like, oh yeah, you need to get out of the base, and then he shows up. It's like, you need to get out of the base.
He's just marching through that base, like he doesn't care who else is. He's just going,
bro. Like marching through the base, and the entire time, not one speckle of snow drips on that black. Like none. Like capes flying around everywhere, smoke, and he just walking through as clean as a whistle, bro. Like that's
where Steven Seagal got it from.
Yeah.
If you watch the Steven Seagal movie, you never gets no dust on that black. This motherfucker off the frame in the desert. This is all black. Like what?
Like what the fuck? Like, yeah, bro. Like it's so menacing. I mean, and you wonder why, and people wonder why. Yeah, I think this was this from the book?
He even made him food. He even made him a meal. He's sitting at the dinner table waiting on him.
I love that scene where they're like, "Oh yeah, I just made a deal. It'll keep the Empire out of here forever," and the audience doesn't know what's going to happen.
No, we didn't see it coming.
Blasting.
He just starts shooting. Oh, this is a good picture. I love this.
This was from the book. This was basically from the comic book that was definitely released. It was a graphic novel that was released right around the time that the movie came out. This made it more terrifying.
Sorry, go ahead, Leo.
No, I'm just saying it just made it more terrifying. Like
there's I don't know if Boba Fett's in the actual photo, or if they added it in for the artwork, but there's a still photo from the set of this scene and of this exact shot with Harrison Ford screaming, and that picture stuck with me when I first saw it.
I think it's this one right here. Hold on. Because we never got a chance to see it on film.
No, we never saw it. There it is. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, see how Boba Fett's not there, and because they they added for the art, but oh man, it's
then
just
they
you
put
can
him on
tell
that
he's
sofa. It's just a
yeah slab. It's just a
plastic.
slab in the wall.
Yeah.
I know, right? It's here. Let me lie down and rest.
Here,
It's
lie
like
down.
on that. Oh god. Poor Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Great. Now my back hurts
Oh,
too.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh god, just kill
Every
me.
time I see
This is
pictures,
terrible.
though, now I just more and more I want that figure.
What?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Bespin Han.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy that they didn't, we didn't get a chance to see it. Like, and here's the thing, bro. Like when I'm watching this, because I watched Empire, I think it was yesterday, and I'm like, which we have a tendency to do. We watch it every chance we get, whether whether it's sometimes I end up watching it just because it's background noise. I know Toya gets tired of me watching these films. I know she does, bro, because I watch them every week. Like literally almost every week. But in watching it, the one thing that kind of stuck out, and again, like I like to tie this back to, Andor in the garrison, just definitely the garrison, where we come from that film to where we are, it really puts a stamp on how ruthless the Empire is and at what lengths they're really willing to go. Now, the one thing that we actually see is we're seeing two totally different perspectives. An empire that's basically built off of occupation and an emperor's rule. But we also see an agenda in Vader. Vader's agenda is even though he's stripped himself away from the practices of, the light side but he still honors the Force. He still does, whether it's light or dark, he still honors the Force. And now his aim is to find, and at the entire time, whether it's New Hope or now an Empire, his agenda was basically to find Luke, Leia, Han. That's it. He was after them. Now, you would basically think that it was like, was it, a revenge type of situation? Part of me almost feels as though he just need clarification. He knew. It's almost like he felt through the Force who Luke really, really was. You know what I mean? But again, he just needed that clarification. He just needed to know for himself. But it's just like you're seeing so many different perspectives, how ruthless they are to hire bounty hunters. We didn't find out till later on that, Boba Fett was just like a mercenary for hire. He didn't mean no harm. He's just trying to make money. You know what I mean? Like, it's a job. I got to take it. I'm trying to make money by any means necessary.
Yeah.
But again, it's just, it's a great, like how even watching Clone Wars, how they are weaving these things together so much to make us a much broader story. It's just, man, the storytelling in this film, it just, everything that we've seen before this just makes Empire that much better. Like literally it does. It does. And it's like tying all these things together, all the loose ends and what we know. And that's the good. And I don't know if y'all heard the other day that Andor is the most streamed. I think what did they say? It's the most streamed now on Disney Plus, or one of the most streamed, whatever it's been.
Yeah,
now.
I heard that.
Like, and they're really pushing for the award season, for the Golden Globes, for, I mean, they're really pushing for it. They're really pushing for, and it rightfully so. But again, I wanted to kind of talk about this too, because remember, actually, I told you I was going to ask, because we didn't really get a chance to really talk about this before. CC, I want to know your perspective on this. So, word is right now, and I don't want to deviate too far away from it, but word is there's two individuals that are up for the possible
Balloons.
There's two in it. Celebration.
You'll float too, Leo. You'll float
too, right? There's two individuals. There's Dave Filoni, and I forget the lady's name.
Yeah.
That are up for a possible, change of the guard when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy, to one of them. Now, there's also a rumor that Dave Filoni didn't take too well to Andor. Like, he didn't really like it as much. And now a lot of people are afraid that if he would take it over, that he would be closed-minded on some of these IPs, and the idea that you could take Star Wars in a totally different direction and make it successful. And so a lot of people they're fearful for that. Do you think it is cause for worry, or should we just kind of let and see how it's going to play out? What do you think, CC?
I could almost see if that was true, which you never know with this shit. I swear to God. Like first Batman 2 was canceled. Now just kidding. He's slow writing, which makes sense. Like all this fake news and stuff.
Yeah.
Dave Filoni did take issue with Andor. It wouldn't surprise me because he's very well known for paying attention to like the mythos and the mythology of Star Wars and the Force and what it means and how important that is and like how it like flows amongst everything and like the grand scheme of things, like what they're building with like Ahsoka and stuff like that. Which Ahsoka was not my favorite, but it's totally different. And I think that that's probably why, at least I'm hoping that the reason why we loved Andor so much was all the things we said, but it's also just incredibly grounded. It's almost like if they decided to just randomly do like, hey, we're going to get a bunch of Star Wars people and they're going to make a series like very similar to Band of Brothers. How's that going to go? So you have people who like, they're in it not for the mythology, but to like create like a real world story set within Star Wars, where like we didn't talk about the Force. There's no lightsabers. There's no world between worlds. There's no like balance. It's just people and evil governments, which I think is why it did so well. It's because you don't have to, and I've been recommending it for friends of mine who can't tell me last time they watched a Star Wars movie, because I'm like, I don't think you need to. And a lot of people said that it's one of the best shows that they've ever watched, regardless of where it falls in Star Wars. So it wouldn't surprise me if maybe Dave Filoni, that's not his favorite thing. But I do think that there's always going to be, I'd hope that he'd be open-minded if he were to take the helm, to say that, kind of like we talk about the genius of George Lucas, it wasn't necessarily that he's this incredible genius. He just had a knack for getting geniuses all in one spot and like getting them all in one room to create all these designs and make all these decisions. And all he had to do was sign off on them. So I'd hope that, kind of like what we've heard Tony Gilroy say about Kathleen Kennedy. She wasn't the one saying, get the set designer from Chernobyl, get the casting director from Chernobyl. It was Tony Gilroy saying, these are the best people for this project and I want them. And she was like, yep. So you'd hope that for the greater scheme of things and for a successful show, movie, whatever it is, that someone like Dave Filoni would have an open mind and say, yeah, we're going to do this, even if it's not my favorite. Because there's been other projects that have been greenlit that we're not fans of, like Book of Boba Fett and what have you. So I think that's always going to happen. But yeah, I would have high hopes for someone like Dave Filoni. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I definitely agree. High hopes. It just got to see where it goes. X, what are your thoughts behind it? Do you think, because I remember like it's crazy how things work, and even basically how this community works when it comes to, when things are riding high. Well, we got the Mandalorian and the mythos within that, and we got a redemption story for Luke. People were flying high. They were like singing the praises of Dave Filoni at that time, him and Jon Favreau.
Yep.
But we see how things changed. You know what I mean? After the trilogy ended, and then once Andor came on board, and the divisiveness of what's going on, within Lucasfilms, films that never got a chance to see the light of day. So that put a stain on the community, and also with what a lot of people didn't receive. They didn't receive a lot of like the streaming IPs as well. They didn't really, Boba Fett wasn't, really received well, even though I thought it was good. There were aspects of it that I loved. Obi-Wan wasn't received well. Of course, we know about the Acolyte as well. And, when it comes to Ahsoka, even though we enjoyed it, viewership wasn't always there. So then a lot of people started questioning Filoni. So what are your thoughts? Do you think he would be good for it? Do you think that it's cause for worry if Andor was something that he didn't really like? What's your thoughts?
With regard to what Dave Filoni does really well, Dave Filoni does storytelling really well when it comes to animation. Like if you look at Avatar, The Last Airbender, you look at Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Rebels, like that's some of the best Star Wars storytelling that's ever been done. And he thrives in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got the TV shows, I mean, I'm not a fan typically of Star Wars television. Star Wars TV feels small, it feels cheap, and Star Wars, it should feel big. It should feel, it should feel amazing, and it should feel, it should be something that you see with a room, full of people, in my opinion. However, the one person who I thought could really crack the code on television for Star Wars was Tony Gilroy, where that made the best use of long format storytelling when it came to live action Star Wars. If we want more of the same thing, and people like The Mandalorian was in many ways kind of a breath of fresh air, in that we hadn't had classic Star Wars in a hot minute. And people were like, it feels like Star Wars. It feels like old school Star Wars. It was a lot of member berries. And I enjoyed it for what it was, The Mandalorian. It was a lot of member berries. But how much of the same thing can you have before it wears out its welcome? How many member berries can you have before you start to ask, well, when are we going to get something new?
Yeah.
And you can get bogged down in the lore. Like the lore and the canon, I hate to say it, but it's not as important as one might think, because you can quickly get bogged down in it and drown in it. Mm-hmm. You just can. And it will be so, you think it's guardrails that are like protecting the story and all this. It's like, no, these are limitations. These are limitations, and people are afraid to stray, too far from the canon or this. And let's face it, we've seen the canon change. The canon is only the canon for as long as people say it's the canon, until it becomes Legends. Or, that was never canon, actually, the expanded universe. But still, things that were canon, at one point in time, I believe Force Unleashed was canon. Now it's not canon. So things can, become canon, and then later on, if someone else takes something over, it's no longer canon. You look at something like Ahsoka, and you look at I don't know if you've ever seen the film Wag the Dog, but there's a quote in Wag the Dog where a dog wags its tail because it's smarter than its tail. If the tail were smarter than the dog, it would wag the dog. Well, you look at a show like Ahsoka, and now you look at what people can do with AI. You can make Ahsoka, for the most part, it's fan fiction, and you could make Star Wars fan fiction. We've seen some amazing Star Wars fan fiction, amazing stuff, and that's pre-AI. Mm-hmm. There's a great animated film called TIE Fighter. If you haven't seen it, go.
I've seen that.
Fantastic. So now look at what they can do with AI, where they can have something that looks as good as Ahsoka. So will it be a simple fact of the fans going off and making their own Star Wars if Disney's not going to give it to them? Or is Disney going to be at the forefront of what Star Wars is,
more proactive,
and push the envelope? So who's following, which is the dog wagging the tail, or is the tail wagging the dog in this case? Where it's like, if I wanted to go and make an Heir to the Empire, fan film that looks authentic, that sounds like Star Wars, that's got all the actors, and just plug and play, and all, it would look like an actual professional Star Wars film. You could do it right now. You could do it if you want to do Knights of the Old Republic. You could do it. So that's what we're up against. And so I don't know if the same formula that was used for Mandalorian, which may or may not have worn out its welcome for some fans, I don't know if you can continue doing that. I do think you have to push Star Wars in different directions. And Dave Filoni is really, really great. He's really, really great when it comes to the canon. He's really great when it comes to the lore. He knows his stuff. He does. I think his strengths lie in animation, and I would much rather have someone else
Direct a
be
live
like
action,
chief,
yeah.
if he wants to be chief creative director, great. But I would much rather someone else be at the helm of Lucasfilm than Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni is, again, great with the canon. He's done amazing things with Star Wars storytelling. I think it may be a case where he's too bogged down in the lore. He knows the lore so well. Can he stray from it? Can he allow something like Andor to exist?
Can he allow different from, will he? And that's the thing is like and that's the fear. Will you be so, so functionally involved in the lore that you forget the opportunity of the expansion of the universe, like the an opportunity to tell stories. I mean, look, you got Ahsoka currently right now in Peridia. There's so many different stories you can actually tell from that aspect. Not everything has to be tied together. You know what I mean? And I kind of fear that's my fear is that, you're telling these particular stories, but we don't honestly, and I know this is going to be blasphemy for a lot of people, is that I think the age of the Skywalkers ended. Like literally, we need to move on from that story, that line. It needs to progress. We need other stories told because we're shrinking the universe every time we revisit those stories. You know what I mean? There's certain things that can be told if we just let it. Even Mark Hamill himself, he was like, look, my time is past. I want to see this expanded. Like, I want to see where it goes. There's opportunities to tell great stories, but the opportunity has to be given as well. So I don't know, Vinny, what are your thoughts behind this, man? I didn't want to digress too much, but I mean, I just want to hear thoughts because this, again, I say this to say this, like for instance, what we got with the original OT trilogy, that was always going to be the benchmark, and it was set for everything else that would come after or before it. Like we got the prequels, we got the sequels, but everybody's going to always talk about OT because that's what set everything up. So if you don't get the feel of what we got here, then automatically it's a failure for a lot of people because they can't let the feeling of what we experience with these films, they don't want to let it go because it was magical. And I get that, but they don't feel as though that magic can be recreated because it's not given a chance. But what are your thoughts about Filoni possibly, coming in and taking over if that was to happen?
It's just another reminder that you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah. And I don't pretend to be the softest critic to Kathleen Kennedy and some of her decisions, but at the same time, I don't envy her position because you're dealing with an IP where you have literally, 5 decades of fans who it's almost impossible to appease because you have the risk of running stagnant with continuing to do Skywalker related stories where older fans are going to love them. Older fans are going to bitch that's the same stuff. Newer fans are going to, not feel the same connection. And then newer fans are going to enjoy the nostalgia that they hadn't experienced. And all along the way, no matter what you do, if you stick close to home or if you get experimental and do things like Andor, sometimes you're going to get an Andor, sometimes you're going to be experimental and get a Book of Boba Fett. It's like you have it seems Kathleen Kennedy is more, I'd say more willing to be experimental and take risks that upset people. And I think that Filoni might be kind of like the opposite side of the pendulum, where he's going to want to do the more fan servicey type stuff. This is clearly the Ahsoka, Clone Wars, Anakin type lane. Is his pocket, is what he seems to enjoy the most, telling those types of stories. So it's tough right now to say that is what would be his like MO if he was the boss, because like where he's at right now, he's like, I believe, like chief creative officer, where like he's helping other teams tell their Star Wars stories, and basically like helping Kathleen oversee a lot of the stuff. But he's not necessarily, from what I understand, like has the power to like truly fire or hire and do these things. However, at the same time, there's rumors like there's like the Filoni wall, where like if it isn't like his version of Star Wars, like he is in Kathleen's ear to shut it down. So I don't know how true that is. I don't know how true that any of this stuff is, because like typical Disney fashion, we hear too much gossip about how things go, and you never know what's true. Like there's so much internal leaks or made up shit, and you never know what is what. And then and then they don't say anything to counteract it, or they don't say anything to tell you announcements where you could read between the lines to say, oh, that must be BS because here they just announced this. They kind of just let stuff fester, and they don't address a lot of the stuff, and they have I believe very poor like PR management when it comes to this kind of thing. So I would love to see what Filoni would do being in charge. However, I very easily could see it being not a great thing and backfiring. Just like, it's like a fan of anything, like whether it be comics or sports, whatever. Sometimes they're too close to the material, and they're too set in their ways of what it should be. Like a lot of, it's like, sometimes you got to tell the kids what's best for them. They don't know what's best for them, and I think Kathleen, like, that is definitely something that is more her job. I never felt like Kathleen is like a diehard, grew up loving Star Wars. She seems more like corporate type of person, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you need like a corporate person to offset someone who's super in love with the material, because then you aren't making movies just for a small portion of us. And I have trouble with it, but I do try to step outside of my own bubble sometimes and realize, hey, like there is a whole nother world out there who might not necessarily like the same type of Star Wars that I like. So when there's a project that doesn't necessarily speak to me, it's like, yeah, but there's, I'm not a 10-year-old anymore. So when they make something that I think is like too kiddie, like, okay, that's fine. That's for them. Like, and you have to have someone who's not going to make everything the Star Wars that's continuing on what they want to see from what they loved growing up. And sometimes it's possible to see like maybe that's what Filoni, his major interests are. Will he, if he was in charge, green light stuff like Andor, that is, obviously a different type of Star Wars than the Ahsoka's and Clone Wars type of stuff that he, is interested in telling. But right now he's more of a creative, so he might not be, interested in that and public about that. I mean, because he said he liked it and that he enjoyed it, that it was great writing and everything. So what we're hearing saying the opposite is like gossip shit. So I don't know if that's even true, but Filoni in charge, for all we know, would make sure that close to home Star Wars stuff, like maybe a Vader show or stuff like that we would expect from like a super fan running the show, running the whole thing. Maybe we get that, but maybe we would also get more stuff like Andor, because he knows that there's so many different types of fans. It's really tough to tell. I mean, I think that the television aspect of what's going on is really wide ranging, and I would like to see that continue. And I would hope that we just get more film love and wide ranging.
Yeah.
I think that to me, I'm less concerned with the how many different. I mean, there's so many different Star Wars TV shows. Like, I'm not really worried about like where that's going, because we've gotten clearly a very, very big focus on making sure that Disney Plus is well fed with Star Wars stories. I want whoever's in charge to be someone who is interested in making Star Wars films again.
Yeah, putting the films back in theaters again. The big
Yeah.
screen.
It
The
is
enjoyment
really-
of being on the big screen again, because
Now
that's
they're
the
going-
magic.
Because at this point, the only
Yeah.
risk that they've been willing to take is like, say, hey, Grogu makes us a ton of money. Let's make sure that gets made, and everything else is like, we'll see. Every single other thing that they've announced or talked about, whatever, I have very, very little faith of actually seeing light, because how many wolves have been, called out.
Yeah, yeah. I think and Chewy, I wanted to ask you because, like I said, I think we're looking for. It's almost looking for that lightning in a bottle type of situation all over again. You want that lightning in a bottle to capture, because again, we have New Hope, we have Empire, we have Jedi. Those films were staples within, our, zeitgeist when it comes to, what I mean, what it meant for us, the impact that it actually had, and they were held at a level of perfection. For someone like Filoni to step in who knows the lore, I think that I'm not going to say it's a risk, but I think that people need to lower the expectation, because it's just impossible right now to capture what we had back then now. And I think that it's in a space where we just have to let things play out and just accept what is new. You know what I mean? And try to embrace it and give it a chance. You're never going to get that feeling back, no matter how much people want. Though Dave Filoni could be chosen. And today here's the thing. And like Vinny said, I don't envy Kathleen Kennedy's job, because she was okay. Everybody loved Kathleen before she basically became the head of Disney Films. I mean, of Lucasfilms. And then all of a sudden, she's just the bane of the existence, the Antichrist. So who's to say that? I mean, we love Filoni now, but then he accepts the job.
Do we? Because you have like some people like Andor. You have like a good chunk of, not a good chunk, but you have some vocal Andor people going, "Yeah, no, Filoni, this isn't what we want. We want Andor."
Yeah, but see, and this is what I'm saying. Like, what if, and just like in a perfect world, if we think about this, people right now they're riding the Gilroy train.
Yeah.
What if that offer was extended to him and he accepted it, right? And said, "Oh yeah, I would do it." But then people are going like, "Oh well, we're not going to get the Star Wars that we want." So then I think anybody who takes that position, there's a target on your back regardless.
Absolutely.
Anybody.
Star Wars has been around for too long, and it's multi-generational. So, for instance, this film, when we're like, "Oh, you watched Empire Strikes Back," which version? We didn't watch the same film. We're not all consuming the same Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
You have some people in the comics, you have some people in the games, you have some people in the books, you have some people in the shows, you have some people in the movies, you have some people in the animation. Where do you start, and where are you coming from? It's been around for a little too long, and we need to blow the sandbox open, because you can do a lot of different stories, but for the person trying to please everyone, which Kathleen Kennedy can't please everyone, but for the record, she has done more good Star Wars stuff than bad. If you look at her track record of the Star Wars projects, we've gotten more good Star Wars than bad, than objectively bad. So, I would say cut her some slack, because again, you've also got the folks over at Disney going, "Here's what we want. Yeah. We need stuff for our streaming platform. Give us stuff."
And she greenlit Mandalorian. People don't understand that. She was the one who greenlit that show.
Yeah.
She's the one who basically stood behind Andor. We wouldn't have Andor if it wasn't for Kathleen Kennedy. And Gilroy said that. So
Andor,
that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, bro, like I'm saying, like it's just this inflated space of just negativity when it comes to her name. Put some respect on her name before she even picked up Lucasfilm. A lot of her catalog is just robust.
Before that, we were dragging George Lucas through the mud. Remember that? George Lucas, you ruined my childhood. So George Lucas is like, "Fine, I'm out. I'm out." And now all of a sudden, "Oh, George Lucas, come back." We don't know what we want, do we?
No, bro.
Really don't.
We really don't.
We really don't know what we want. George Lucas was looking at that and went, I can't please you. I really can't. And I'm
not going to try to. So I'm just going to leave it alone. Fuck it. Let somebody else deal with the shit. I don't want it. Chewy, What's your thoughts about all this, bro?
Yeah, it's I think once you've done something, once you've created an IP that has taken on that franchise name, people think of things as franchises where movies are concerned now. When you've done that, I think you've already half lost the battle. Just because of the fact that, you're talking about multi-generational stories, whether you're talking about the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy. And then you're talking about, the stuff that comes out in between, during the 80s, during the dark times when we didn't have any Star Wars after 83, and it was all filled in by the books and the comics. And one particular stroke of genius, which was Shadows of the Empire, which was a multi-platform story, which was comics, video game, novels, which worked perfectly. But all of these things happened before the internet. All of these things took place at a time when you could have an opinion, but you didn't have to share it with the entire world.
With the entire platform, bro.
There it is. He's got it.
You think he wouldn't?
Of course he does. Of course he
The
does.
soundtrack, baby. The
right.
soundtrack. The Shadows of the Empire. Check out that Drew Struzan artwork.
Yeah,
that's right.
Drew Struzan.
Yeah.
God, I love Drew Struzan.
Yeah.
I miss
Book
him.
is so good.
Yeah.
But
It was a release that had everything but a movie.
Literally everything but a movie. But that's the thing. I think when you've got something as big as Star Wars is already now, and I get why Filoni, I can understand why maybe he's, if it's true that he didn't like Andor, or that he just didn't think that would be something he would have done. I think he understands that at this point, the only way that you can continue Star Wars in a franchise model is by compartmentalizing it. So now you have the original trilogy and the prequels. That's George Lucas's original Star Wars story. That's it. Those 6 movies. Then you've got whatever came after that Disney did, and that you could connect some of it to the original 6 movies or not, or you don't have to. Then you've got all the comics that have come out, then all the books and the legends and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I think you have to separate each thing. Each thing has to live in its own bubble, because if you try to keep making movies and stories that are all basically the same as the original 6 movies, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up for failure just because of the fact that people all have a different idea of what they think Star Wars is. And the only person who really knows that is George Lucas. He's literally the only one. And Filoni is, while I get that he does stick close to the lore, but that's because he's like everyone says, and it's true. He's George Lucas's protege. He came up under him. He's the reason why Clone Wars, the animated series Clone Wars, is so good, and all of Filoni's stuff animated was so good, is because he had George sitting right next to him, telling him, "Oh, now do this. Oh, well, I don't know if you want to do that." Or like he was the one. It was George Lucas who came up with Luke Skywalker had a Padawan.
Yeah.
George Lucas came up with Ahsoka is Luke's, or sorry, not Luke. My mistake. Anakin Skywalker had a Padawan. George Lucas is the reason for that character existing.
Yeah.
He's, because I remember seeing an interview with Filoni saying, "No, he didn't," and then Lucas said, "Yes, he did."
Yes, he did.
and then he let Filoni flesh it out and create the character. And it, like, let's say it. Look, that first Clone Wars, the movie was not good. The animated movie, it was experimental animation, an experimental style of animation, which did not lend itself really to that giant screen.
It was sort of like the pilot. It was the pilot.
It was the 2 episode. Yeah. Or sorry, it was like 4 episodes of the show stuck together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the series picked up after that, and I remember everybody hated Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
Ahsoka was God. She was annoying.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they treated everyone hated her, and I have to admit I didn't care for that character either. Not the way that she was being played, like the way that it was written, and the whole thing with Sky Guy and all that kind of stuff. I thought that's annoying. But if she doesn't have one of the best character arcs in all of Star Wars, I don't know who does.
Yeah,
because she's now like a fan favorite.
Yeah.
That's Filoni.
Mm-hmm.
That's Filoni, and that's a guy who I think if he is given the reins, I think he can do a lot of good, as long as he still allows for other things to happen in different pockets.
As long as he allows creatives to expand.
Yeah. And I think that's the only way it works. I mean, personally, like I said, franchises can get away from you if you let them. And the best example of that is the MCU.
Yeah.
There's way too much in the MCU. I've always been a big, and as much as we have had good movies after Endgame that have come out, they've been very, very few and far between. And I've always been one of those people that thought if they had just stopped after Endgame and said, that's it, we're done. It was a 10-year experiment, and it was amazing, and it is cohesive, and it all ends in this great the ending of Endgame. People would be saying Disney, Marvel are geniuses.
Yeah.
They're geniuses. And that would go down in history as one of the greatest series of films. But because Hollywood being Hollywood, we got to make more money. These characters are hot. Let's throw some more stuff at the wall and see what we can make money on.
Yeah.
And the fans can smell that. They smell it right away when they see that you're just throwing stuff out there to see what sticks. And I'm afraid of that happening to Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. And I don't think Filoni will do that. I think of the people that they could pick to run things after Kennedy retires, I think he probably is the best choice at this point. I just don't see who else they could get to handle this. Although I don't think that his strength is in directing live action. As much as I did like Ahsoka, the show, I felt like the way he directed it, there were times where things just started to slow down.
There were a few plot holes. There were a few things that really the dialogue became, in certain aspects though, it was choppy. But it wasn't as bad.
But it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I never once, not for a second, did I ever hate that show. I noticed the things that didn't work in it. But for the most part, I really liked it. So I mean, in general, I'd say I think Filoni is the one who's best placed to take the reins at this point. I think he's smart enough to know that if he can keep his pocket of Star Wars that he'll work from, which is all in and around Lucas, the George Lucas stuff, and then let other creatives pick different time periods. I really want someone to do a Knights of the Old Republic. Do it.
I would love it.
I mean, and the thing is these are stories that you can build trilogies around.
Yeah.
Which is what Star Wars should be in the theater. It should always be trilogies.
Yeah.
Because that sets it up for that epic scope. And it makes it something that people look forward to. You see the first movie, and they've got to not do it the same way they did the sequels. They've got to give it 3 years between each movie.
Yeah.
Give it 3 years. Let people get hungry for it again. It was like, we had episode 7, and then a year and a half later, episode 8, and a year and a half later, episode 9. It got to a point where it's like, oh, we're already done.
Between those, we had Rogue One and Solo and all that.
And then we had Rogue One.
You're going to have a Star Wars movie every year. It's like, that's too much Star Wars.
That was a mistake.
Way too much.
That was a mistake. And like I said, I don't think Filoni makes mistakes like that. I think he's learned from the mistakes he's seen other people make. And I would hope, and that I think he can I think because he knows the lore, I think he can probably steer things in a good direction and still let other pockets of Star Wars exist on their own and have other creatives running those.
Yeah.
But him
I
overseeing.
think, and that's the thing, it's not the creatives that makes the mistakes, it's the execs that step in and see nothing
is it
but
ever.
dollar signs. So we already know how that basically works. So
Yeah.
CC, I'm going to ask you a question here real quick. Like I said, I want to bring it back to Empire because of how well it was done. Should there, in your opinion, CC, should there ever be an expectation that, are we setting ourselves up? I mean, because we know that this was possibly out of, the entire trilogy, one of the greatest films of all time. Are we, again, should we let it stand in its own space and give something else a chance? Or are we setting ourselves up for failure because we're still holding on to this space, expecting everything else to measure up against it? Because we know how spectacular this film was. We know how, it inspired generations to want to also create trilogies that would be just as impactful as this was, to have that, that cliffhanger at the very end of the film that kind of makes us hunger for what's next. Should we just let it stand it's in its own space and just give something else a chance and move on from it? Or are we just setting ourselves up continuously by measuring everything up against this? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, like, when I saw Rogue One, I didn't say, like, wow, that was crap compared to Empire Strikes Back. I think that some comparisons are fine, obviously, and you're gonna always, I feel like it's also, especially like generationally, it's like, hey, we had the best, like the original trilogy was the best, everything after it was crap and like couldn't keep up. But I wouldn't say that, like, hey, Empire Strikes Back was so good, we need to like silo it and isolate it. I think more of like, yes, it is fantastic, but the bar could always go higher.
Exactly.
And it might be on the list of like most significant, best, revered, culturally important movies of all time. But I don't think, like, there's always going to be something else that comes around that is better or surprises us. Like, I think of the movie Sinners that came out of nowhere that people are like, oh my God, an original freaking idea. Like, we've never heard of this. And even like, so we had all of those shows. Mando's good. We had Ahsoka, we had Book of Boba Fett. We're not going to talk about that. And then we had Andor, which it had the bones. It had the bones with Andor because of Tony Gilroy, and we had faith, and also we liked the Andor character, and because it came from Rogue One, it was almost like, because it touched greatness, we thought it was going to be great, hoped it was going to be great, and it was.
Yeah.
We're this close to greatness.
We're on the verge. I don't think, like, can you imagine it would have aged like milk if you had some dude being like, oh, nothing's going to be better than The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So I think that there's also nostalgia that plays a huge part. Mind you, there are movies that, like, I go back and watch, like Empire Strikes Back, and I don't think it can be improved upon, despite special editions.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Could there be scenes that are cut, or locations that are removed, or just small things? No.
Yeah.
Like, could the writing be better? Could the atmosphere, the music? Like, I don't. It's one that you struggle to figure out what could have been changed or improved upon. So I don't think it should be like siloed. Like, hey, nothing's going to touch Empire Strikes Back, because like Rogue One's my second favorite Star Wars movie after Empire Strikes Back, and that's not an old one. And so I think that gives us faith that, like, also we're, as we get older, and it reminds me of, there's this Time Magazine article that came out in like 2015, and the title, I think that's when it came out, but the title was "You're Not Going to Live to See the Last Star Wars Movie," and it was cool, but also depressing as fuck.
It's true.
We
That's
think
true.
we think Empire Strikes Back is incredible, and I think Rogue
Mhm.
One is incredible, and Andor is amazing. But like 10 years from now, we could be like,
Mhm.
Andor's not as good as this thing.
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back. Now you think about it, the
Yeah.
runtime could have been improved upon. Like this is much better.
Uh,
Like we're always gonna be chasing it. So no, I think, and also I think it's important to like understand the time in which they were done, and that's the nostalgia and everything else. Like technology is gonna improve, always, but I think the spirit of things are gonna stay the same as far as like the love and appreciation for Star Wars.
yeah.
So no, I don't think that we need necessarily silo Empire Strikes Back or keep chasing Empire Strikes Back and be like, well, that's, you can't go any higher. Never. You're gonna keep trying to space.
Yeah.
That does not make sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense, and you're right. Like we should be moving in a space where we're looking at it like, yo, this is great, but there's also potential for something to come along and to be either just as great or even better, because we're allowing it to happen. I think that's the beauty of it, is to allow that space to take shape. Allow, again, like I always say this, like we want something better, we want new, we want progression.
Mhm.
But as soon as we get it and it doesn't center around something that we thought it should be, then we go back to saying, well, it's never going to be like it used to be, when actually it's not supposed to.
Right, and we've talked about it too with stuff like, just to compare Andor, just because we just talked about it, to Empire Strikes Back, and like the behind the scenes stuff, and what could have been with Andor. Like I think I remember the conversation with Episode 8 where Cassian turns to Cyril and is like, "Who are you?" And how that almost didn't happen.
Yeah.
There's another line that someone was like, no, he should say this instead, and they had to fight for that. And
They
how
had to fight for him to say that line. Yep, I remember.
And here we
that,
are talking, 45 years later, that Empire Strikes Back, like they filmed other lines, like Obi-Wan Kenobi killed your father.
Yeah.
And that's not the one they went with. Like how close history could have been different, and how like small, like what would have happened if they hadn't gotten snowed into that hotel?
See,
if
they didn't have, if he wasn't allowed to see his vision, where it could have been. If he didn't see that, if he didn't at that very moment, that was a moment that he captured history. But if he wasn't there in the right time, at the right space, at the right time, you know what I mean? Where would we be at this moment? You know
or even weird stuff like, I'm a nerd for like the props and the design aspect of things, and like Boba Fett, when you consider how much work went into his helmet compared to like stormtrooper helmets, you're like, what the fuck? Like it's like it's kindergarten work versus like master thesis college level stuff, like the and the metal parts and the found parts that are involved in the Boba Fett helmet. And it really is because they debuted the character at a parade in
he was all white,
1978 or something like that. He was just walking with Vader, and they had literal months to paint that helmet. So no wonder it was going to be incredible compared to all the stuff they came out with in New Hope that had issues and stuff like that, like because they had so much time to work on it. So I think that there's potential for things to always be greater. You just have to you have to find the people who know what the fuck they're doing. You have to give them the time. You have to give them the money, as we found out with Andor, and just let them do their jobs.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, but
that's the problem too. And you think about it, in terms of the way that the Hollywood machine works now. It didn't work quite like that back then. So now it's all about money. It's all about money, and it you're only as good as your last hit. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And it's that easy for them to have one misfire and everybody turns on you, and nobody wants to give you money anymore. Nobody wants to take a chance. No one wants to risk anything. Hollywood is risk averse, completely risk averse. And because of that, that's why we don't get that many sinners. That's why we don't get that many out of the box kinds of movies anymore. And it's just all sequels or franchises or like it's all the same stuff. Personally,
compared to like the 80s, you know, like the 80s.
Oh God.
What do you want to do?
Throw everything out. Everything, whatever you want to do, just do it. And that was the thing. And like I said, if it was up to me, and I know I'm probably not the majority opinion on this, but I would almost say leave Star Wars alone. Let it be its own thing. Let's do something new, entirely new, not Star Wars, just something else. Let something else become the new Star Wars, or become the new superhero movie, or become the new, the new horror movies and like that kind of stuff. But that's not going to happen. Not when there's this much money at stake, and
they want to get what they invested in. They want to get their investment, and I mean, I understand that from a business standpoint. That's just the way it's going to actually be. But there's a right way to get your investment, and that's by letting the creators do their job.
Let people with vision. Like you're hiring people with vision for a reason. Let them do their thing.
Yeah, bro. That's like me saying, Vinny, you're not allowed to paint. I just want you in the room all the time, bro. Just be in the room. You gotta orchestrate what's happening in that room. I don't need you to come out and paint another picture, bro. We don't need your art. We need you to just stay in that room and control what's going on in there, man. Would that work? We wouldn't get some of the masterpieces that we got right now because it's pure laziness, bro.
I can go on a tangent. So there's a documentary, and I think it's called Jurassic Punk. And it's about, I'm going to forget the guy's name. I think he's Canadian. Apologies, Chewy. But so he's one of like the pioneers of CGI.
Yeah.
And like he was on the team that did obviously Jurassic Park.
I know who you're talking about.
That they got an Oscar for and all this stuff. And his supervisors for Jurassic Park were like Phil Tippett and I think Dennis Barron. And they were the people doing the stop motion puppets for Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And this guy whose name I can't freaking remember was like, we could do that with CGI. And they're like, no. Like these guys worked on Star Wars. So they know what they're doing. They're gonna do the stop motion. And this guy literally had to design the skeleton and then put muscles on a T-Rex and animate it walking across the screen. And he knew that Kathleen Kennedy was coming in for a meeting. And he had it playing on the screen when she walked into the room. So when she walked in, she had to walk past it. And when she did, she was like, what's this? And that's literally how we got CGI.
We got what we got right now.
And that opened the door to so many other movies. Yeah. And it was literally, and it's this guy just being like, we can do it better. And them just being like, but these guys did Star Wars, man. Like, and this is how they did it. They did it with stop motion. They did it with physical puppets. And him being like, there's a time and a place. Like for you doing close-up shots, of course, we want those Stan Winston painted, like real, you could touch them like dinosaurs. Yeah. But for a lot of these action shots that you're looking for, it's the CGI that's going to get you there.
So it was that one moment that defined history.
It's him being a dick and just being like, you know what? Don't let me animate this T-Rex, so I'm just going to do it on my own.
I'm just going to do it anyway.
And I'm going to sabotage.
I'm going to be Admiral Piet.
Well, what was it Dedra said? Dedra Meira said, systems either change or die.
Yeah. He was just being Admiral Piet, bro.
Yeah. And that dude was trying to be risky.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, that as I recall too, I think it might have been the same doc. I think I have seen this documentary, but I remember them also mentioning that the working animatronic model that they made would get soaking wet from all the rain, the foam rubber, the latex and it would malfunction and it would start going because it couldn't the mechanics couldn't run it because it got so heavy with water that it would stop working. And that thankfully they were at a place with CGI at that time that they could make that look as good as it did.
And I think there was basically like them still trying to hold on to that ancient
to the
type
classic
of technology,
ways,
the classic way of doing it. That again, they knew, because even right now, if you watch, I think it was it season 2 now of Skywalker,
Industrial Light.
Industrial Light and
Magic.
Magic. They talked about how that division has now closed for good. They had a party in the same space at the very end, like they went back and had a party, but it was like they could see a future that was going to happen, but they were trying to hold on and say, look, we're not ready for that because we're just so comfortable here. They saw the future, but they just did not want it to happen.
There is still something to be said for practical effects.
Yeah,
I mean, practical has to exist. I mean, look at
Grogu.
Grogu,
It was a practical effect. They got
practical effects, practical sets, like real sets. Actors need something, and that was like one of the big sticking points with the prequels is that you didn't give him anything to react to. Yeah, like Ewan McGregor's like, I don't know what's going on around.
I have no idea what they're looking at.
Exactly. So practical sets, real sets. Yeah, you can do a lot with the volume, but you can't do everything with the volume. You just
when people talk a lot of shit about the prequels because of the green screen and blue screen, as they should, but they also built, I think, more models for Phantom Menace than they did for any other Star Wars.
Their model work is really fantastic.
So there was a lot of things that they still did by hand, and even like the concept maquettes. And the one thing that I'm really hoping someone takes a look at is like they did a concept maquette, like a actual figure of K2SO. And I say it was Luke Fisher, the artist, and then he also did like a life-size bust of just his head. And I want those both in my living room. So they still do things like physically with like clay and paint and like to just get an idea of things without it just being sketches or like 3D renderings on the computer. It's just, I told a friend recently who's seen a lot of that stuff in person, like all the things that should be in a museum. And I'm like, do you just look at that stuff sometimes and think like the amount of talent is disgusting? Like just incredible, like just seeing the things that they were able to make and do. And then you think about like simple things like the design of the Stormtrooper helmet or like even Darth Vader and how things progressed over time. And then even the sequels, like they had their problems, but some of their designs are just like incredible considering what they had to work with. And I think, like I said, Empire Strikes Back is also one of those, all of the pieces just came together. As far as talent and who's working on it, and what worked and what didn't. And they're able to like overcome a lot of challenges too. Yeah. You ever listen to the shit show that was filming on Dagobah between like the water and the fact that like Frank Oz was like several feet under the stage and they had pieces, and if it was on the wrong frequency, suddenly they're listening to like the local radio station or some shit.
Because he was like, look at this. Who was it? Mark Hamill was like, yo, when he was like,
he's like, I got the stones.
He's like, I got the stones. Bro, it was just incredible.
Yeah.
But like, even like Frank Oz talked about how painful it was for him being under there and having to reach up and how hunched over he was to keep his arm open. They had a tank full of water, you know what I mean? And basically him positioning himself under a platform, but how they were able to kind of, moving forward, the technology changed where he didn't have to do all that. He just basically supplied his voice. Even with, and he thanked him for it. He was like, yo, thank you, because my back thanks you. You know what I mean? Like, things are moving forward. So again, I think that a lot of these people, like I said, they see the future, but they're afraid of that possible future. I mean, that speaks so much when it even comes to films, like the way it's, all things subjective, and how a lot of people just don't want to receive what is new. It's always that one moment. Vinny's gone, but it's always that one moment that defines everything. That defines everything. You know what I mean?
The thing is, it's like you said before, the way that some movies just catch lightning in a bottle. And the 80s is notorious for those movies.
Oh my God.
There's so many lightning in a bottle movies that came out of the 80s in all genres. And it almost just seems like since then, every studio is just trying to recapture that.
But they're going about it the wrong way by oversaturating the IP. Like, it doesn't have to be oversaturated. I think Kathleen Kennedy just recently, because I think she did a private, or they did a screening of the old New Hope, like the way it was shot, the original. You know what I mean? Before it was edited. And she had talked about after that, during a Q&A, how now Lucasfilm is looking at, now with Star Wars, what they're looking at doing more standalone films, more standalone than they are with like most trilogies. Like, they'll do trilogies, but they're also wanting to do more standalone
smaller stories,
like the smaller stories to kind of expand. And I'm like, part of me is like, come on, man, like the trilogies is where it's at if it's done right. But I think it's a lot riding on that, because they don't currently have an actual formula, and we have to accept the standalones for what it is right now. You know what I mean? They're depending on this Mandalorian and Grogu film. There's Starfighter film, that's going to be coming about, pretty soon. I think they start shooting that in September. You know what I mean? So,
like, Star Wars fans are also just toxic as fuck.
Yeah.
So you can't.
They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. But it's true.
Star Wars fans, it's just fandom. All the fandoms,
But it's like, so I appreciate the idea that they're doing, like, okay, take two characters that you created solely, Mando and Grogu, do a movie. Get Ryan Gosling to play someone we don't know, who's not related to anyone else in the galaxy, because this galaxy is too fucking small. Like, he's not a Skywalker, he's not a Solo. Like, just have a movie set in the it's a galaxy. Like, we can't have side stories that aren't origin stories, aren't new trilogies, that somehow people name drop names we know, even though it's a freaking galaxy and it's huge. Like, just give us something new that you can't have people complain and be like, that's not the Boba Fett I grew up with. That's not the Thrawn I read about. Like, just the potential's there
for something completely new
stuff that people like. I think the not knowing the specifics of the Ryan Gosling movie, but I kind of have a feeling it's, at least when I heard about it, it was like, what if it's like Top Gun set in Star Wars, where it's just about like the X-Wing pilots, and it's not about battling the Empire. It's more of like a, hey, like, this is them patrolling the New Republic and what comes of that, and just literally anything that doesn't involve a Skywalker. I don't even care if it has a lightsaber necessarily. Just something new set in the galaxy that doesn't have anything to do with the people that we already know about.
See, that's the thing, bro.
What?
Because here's the thing, bro. Like,
who hurt you?
I'm of this space. I'm just of this space where I'm just thinking that. See, I love the mythology. I love the mythology in the religion, the Jedi religion itself. I think those stories can be incorporated if it's done right. If they basically explore it the right way, I miss it. And not that we needed it in Andor, because we didn't, and we didn't need it necessarily in Rogue One. But I just think that, if done right, it can be extremely important, and I would love it if it was done right. Yeah,
there was an opportunity. There was a chance for them. They didn't ultimately do it. A creative decision, I'm assuming, that they could have had near either the last episode of Andor season 2 or maybe the second last episode, just a single scene, short scene where Vader comes in, and people probably would have ate that up. It would have been like the end of Rogue One, when he shows up although he was in it earlier. But I mean, just something small where he comes into the room where they're questioning Dedra.
Mhm.
Like just something where he comes in and makes his presence felt.
Yeah, I'm glad
And
they
then
didn't. I'm
I
so
Yeah.
glad
am
they
too.
didn't.
I am too, but I could see them having thought about doing that.
Great,
And
Chewie.
then
Now I'm
deciding
picturing
not to.
Vader putting his finger on her
Yeah.
head.
Yeah, the finger.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, no, wait.
That's
Vader
that
putting
should
his
have been-
finger on Krennic's head is just like a.
Yeah. It's like
Bro,
3 of
could
them all in
you-
a row doing it.
Can you imagine Krennic having a Commissioner Gordon moment from Dark Knight where he says,
Oh
"Would you
yeah,
like
I'm
some
gonna
blue
get some
milk? I'll
coffee.
be right back." And then you see the lights come on and Vader goes. Bro, that shit would be, it's crazy.
I'm glad that they didn't do that.
Yeah.
But at the same, because I mean, honestly, that moment was all Krennic, and that was
Yeah.
exactly what they needed to do. But yeah, like there are always bits where they could have, you could see where their minds were working. Because I remember the one
Yeah.
trailer for the second season, there's a scene where it shows that one scene where Dedra's looks like she's choking.
Like she was.
Oh yeah,
And
and people were
like, she was just having a
"Oh my
panic
God,
attack."
Oh my gosh.
It was just a panic attack, as it turned out. But everybody was speculating, like, oh, maybe Vader's going to be.
Maybe Vader's force
he's
choking her. or
force
something like
choking
that.
her.
Yeah.
And, everybody was freaking out, and it's like, no, it's just she's just having a panic attack.
Yeah, she's just having a
That was
moment.
it.
That's
She's
all.
having a moment. She's by herself. She's going to get over it. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think you've got a situation now where there are a lot of areas of the galaxy that you can tell stories in, and it's been set up and it's been done, and it's just a matter of getting the right creatives in place to do the job. And right now they don't have enough of those people
Yeah.
working there. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, and that's it. Hopefully they can right the ship, but I mean, I think that again, like we, to kind of tie all this together, because like I said, I didn't want to go too long with it, but what made and CC, I love what you said was, yeah, we know that George is a creative and he's a creative genius, but what made him more of a genius was the simple fact that he knew how to place people. He knew who to have and who to because again, like he's come up with ideas and he'll leave it to the creatives and say, well, make it happen. I know you can. And believed in them so much and pushed them to do things that they even never imagined they could do. You know what I mean? He said it even like in some of the documentaries. I know you can do it. Just try it. You know what I mean? Like, again, positioning the right people in, getting Kirshner to direct Empire, making it the masterpiece that it was, believing in him that he can actually do it. Getting someone like, I will always say that the greatest decision that George Lucas ever made, the single greatest decision that he has ever made, was getting John Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Literally was the single greatest, because when you hear John Williams music, it from a mile away. You can just hear it. When you hear it, that's John Williams. And that was the single greatest thing that he could have ever done, was get him for these films, because it was, again, he's moved the emotional beats. He knew how to place music in the right spots. Again, positioning all these people to make such a incredible film like Empire. Again, it's like we're saying, it's not to say that it can't be done again. I just think that they need to take their time, but then it's also up to us, the viewers, to give them a chance.
Yeah.
We don't give them a chance, man, and if we keep bitching and moaning about this shit, where's it gonna go, Vinny? Where's it gonna happen, bro? Yeah,
I wonder too, with them having recently screened A New Hope again, the original version of A New Hope that George said did not exist. I wonder if this could mean that we might get digital home release of the original
4K,
pre-special
baby.
edition.
4K physical
4K.
That's been my dream
release.
for decades.
Oh, I've been hoping for it one day too. I mean, I've all but lost hope once.
Do you
he
think that
started-
this was done to possibly set something like that up?
I
Oh,
think
absolutely.
it could be. I think
Oh,
it could
yeah.
be.
Because if they
it's
did
almost
that,
too perfect, you know.
Yeah.
It's almost too like, hey, look at this. It's barely faded, and we didn't even know this was a thing. But look, check it out.
yeah,
like-
And the thing is
It's
that's
got
the
everybody
one.
excited.
Yeah, and it's the one thing that pre the sale to Disney that Lucas was adamant about, that you would never see those movies again, the original versions. And Disney, well, the thing was, is that to me, that's leaving all that money on the table, right? But
Yep.
Disney doesn't have to hold to that.
oh no,
and
he
if
sold
those-
it.
Yeah,
He
They don't
sold
have to. They don't have to agree with him that they'll do that. And to be honest, can you imagine the day one sales on the 4K Blu-rays of the original unaltered trilogies?
it. That's a no-brainer.
Billions of dollars.
That's a no-brainer.
Those things will fly off the shelves, or digital or for me, it's always going to be physical media, but
Vinny,
yeah,
Yeah,
every time. And I'm hopeful that that's what this might be hinting at, but we'll see.
Vinny, do you still have the original?
Yeah, I have the Laserdisc porcelain DVD with that set.
Oh, nice.
Oh, you do?
That's the ones we watched when we had the marathon. It was the DVD set that has the bonus disc that has the Laserdisc port. That's
Oh,
the
is it
only
this
way
one?
I ever watched that's the only way I ever watched the original trilogy. I seen the special edition maybe once or
No,
twice.
this is like the limited edition. It's
Yeah,
the original release
It-
of Empire.
It's on the special
It's on the special
the
edition disc
extras
with the
disc.
Laserdisc ports. Yep.
The extras disc, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
That's
in
the only- that's
480.
the only-
It's like in 480p.
Yeah.
It's
really-
not pretty, but it's
Yeah.
true.
But today I watched the 4K, which is the special edition. But this is like, hey, it's the original Empire Strikes Back. If you want it, it's in 480.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
come on,
really
we could do better than that. We
Yeah,
do
They
better.
could have.
So having that and because that's the only, I mean, literally that's the only way. Like I was showing my girl's daughter, and like that's how I showed it to her. Like that's how we just watched Empire and the Laserdisc port of the original. Like I don't want Jabba the Hutt and New Hope. I don't want a musical number in Return of the Jedi. Like that's
Yeah.
not,
Back
that's
in my day,
definitely not for
Ewoks
me.
didn't blink.
you know, great Han shot first, all that. You know what I mean? Like it's,
Yeah.
you know,
I have the THX remastered VHS still.
I was gonna say that's pretty good. That's a pretty good version.
Those
of
were
it.
as good as they
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
Those were as good as
And the
they
thing
and they
is,
look-
I still
they look
have the
great.
VHS version of the original, but I don't have a player
I don't
for it
either.
because that's functional. That would actually work. So it's a wrap, but I still have it, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe it's in good condition. But it's just
now, don't get me wrong, the Blu-ray ports of the special discs are beautiful, but it's I just can't rock with them.
You
I'd
can't
rather, I'd rather
in
watch it
the way-
480 than watch
Yeah.
it with all the other shit that I don't
in
want.
the way that it connects to Empire Strikes Back is the fact that a lot of the special edition changes that were made were completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't like the special editions as much. I still watch it, don't get me wrong. Luke shouldn't be screaming when he falls down that shaft after he gets his hand cut off. There's no reason for him.
Yeah,
And it's
They-
the Emperor's scream. It's the Palpatine screaming when from Return of the Jedi. Just put that scream over top of Luke as he's falling.
right.
And that's that, which makes no sense.
Yeah,
He did it deliberately. Why would he be screaming when he's falling?
I'm glad that they took that away because they
Yeah.
remastered and took that out because it was just it was terrible. They didn't.
And the one thing that was it's a small little thing, and it doesn't bother. I'm pretty sure it doesn't bother anybody else, but it bothered me. Was when after Luke escapes, and they added this whole thing of Vader walking down the hall. Alert my Star Destroyer to prepare for my arrival, and then they use alternate takes from the beginning of Return of the Jedi.
And you can, because if you look
can
when he's
tell.
getting off of the shuttle,
Gerard,
you can still see, like it's like,
and they're trying to like say it's like, well, he was there to give like an update on Death Star 2, you know. It's like, while you're here, let me give a Death, you know, like we did not need to see that scene.
Bro.
And before they did that, the scene was just, and for me, it was much more powerful, just in my opinion. But it's just Vader walking back down the hall. You can tell he's pissed.
He just says, bring my shuttle.
Bring my shuttle. And it's just really, that is how we should have left it. Because that was
I don't need to see him walking to his shuttle. I don't need to see his shuttle flying. I don't need to see his shuttle docking. He made it back to his ship.
Yeah, he got back on the Star Destroyer. You see him thereafter. Yeah. That's where he loses them, and then he just looks at everyone, and they all. How did you say?
Anything, it fucks with the pacing. You know, it really does fuck with the pacing of the movie. Where it's like, we gotta show him getting off his ship. Like, no, we don't need to show someone getting out of their car.
No,
even in Return of the Jedi,
it's cool.
They've pigeonholed certain things of allowing. I mean, even changing the simple fact that you wanted to replace Sebastian Shaw with Hayden Christensen. Like, you do that now, and I know what the expectation was, and I know the intentions were at that time probably wasn't expand on that story,
right? Even
though it has been now, but it's just like, okay, you do that, but then you're keeping Alec Guinness, you know what I mean? So there's no way to. I just did the choices that
the argument that I heard. The argument that I heard for that was, and I think it was actually Lucas himself who said it, was that when he manifests as a Force ghost, it's the look, it's how he was when he was still on the light.
Yeah,
but he had turned back to the light before he died. So he should have looked like he looked. He should have still looked like Sebastian Shaw. It's the way I see it. But and then they could have done a thing later down the road, when they get to Ahsoka and he's in the world between worlds and he looks young again, and they could say, okay, well, when you're here, you can look however you want.
Yeah.
But for the purposes of the movie, I thought they should have left Sebastian Shaw in there.
They should have.
Well, here's our figure.
I hope for the sake of that they do release the original cut. I hope they do. And because I would love it. I hope that they release the original cut. So then we don't have to worry about, the best of both worlds. You're leaving money on the table if you don't do it. I mean, I understand that if Lucas didn't want to do it, but hey, if he's not in charge anymore, he doesn't have a say.
Also, think about how much goodwill Disney would buy from the fans.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Buying back so much goodwill from from.
Well, she did say that the celebration for or the 50th anniversary is going to be huge. She said it's going to be huge, bigger than what they expected. They said it's going to be huge. So I'm hoping part of that is releasing the original cut. I'm hoping that they basically do that. I would.
Can you imagine?
Oh my God!
If they announced that,
yeah,
I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah, just release the original cut, man. People would definitely want to have that original cut, but. It is what it is. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much because we already 2.5 hours in, man. Thank you so much, everybody, for being out there. Again, Empire, we covered as much as we definitely could. There's so many emotional beats about it. But again, great film, classic film. I am kind of with you though, CC, because Rogue One did make my top 3. Mm-hmm. It did. It made my top 3. I'm sorry. It's for me, it's New Hope. It's Empire, it's Rogue One, then Revenge. Literally. Or Return. It is. Because I just love Rogue One so much. I really, really, really do. So I put that before Return of the Jedi.
And also the stroke of genius of putting Donnie Yen in that movie. That was just genius. He's so good in that movie.
They just missed the opportunity of not putting a lightsaber in his hand, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Had the mentality.
Oh God!
But I get it. I get it. I understand it.
No,
Right.
because now he connects to the cook in Andor season 2, where it's just like, here are these force sensitive people.
The wills.
They're not all Jedi, but they're believers. They just
Yeah.
they know how the force works.
Yeah. So it's just that want, but I understand and I trust the process when it comes to Gilroy. He did a phenomenal job with it. So, you know what I mean? Trusting in the force, the space that you don't know, you're a believer.
Yeah,
but
you just
they
don't know how it works.
And giving us one of the best lines to just keep repeating all the time.
Yeah.
I'm one with the force is with me. One with the force, and the force is with me.
Yeah, definitely, man. So anyway, thank you guys. Another great conversation, man. Definitely phenomenal. We do got return to talk about definitely again. But yeah, man, I mean, and I know that it's gonna be divisive amongst a lot of people when it come to the Ewoks, man. A lot of people was like, I can't fucking stand them Ewoks. If Robert Meyer Burnett was here, it'd be over, bro. But that's why I would never bring him on.
Yeah.
He hates.
He would overtake the conversation, and that would be the end of it.
Oh my God, he hates it, bro. We would have probably been like 4 more hours with him, bro. Like straight up, he absolutely hates Return of the Jedi. But you know what I mean? Definitely got to talk about it.
Do you remember the original song? Because even the music changed.
Yeah.
The original song where it sounded like they were saying "Time to break the law."
Yeah.
Time to break the law.
Yeah.
I
love the original song, bro.
So
the
do
original
I.
song was incredible. Like I hate the new version, but the original was incredible.
Yub nub, motherfuckers. Yub
nub, bro. Yeah.
Imagine Wicked saying that. Yub nub, motherfuckers.
Anyway, man, X, what's going on with you, bro?
Oh my goodness! I mean, tomorrow, a lot of people are going to be busting because that makes them feel good with that Ghostbusters release from Blitzway. Yeah. That's going to be exciting. I mean, I've got a lot of vinyl soundtrack stuff that I'm getting excited about, but y'all don't care about that. So then the Sunday, maybe Collectors Lounge International. A whole lot of nothing happened this week, with the exception of the Ghostbusters. Later today, actually, because now it is the 20th.
That's true.
Yeah.
So get your wallets ready. Go in. Get on the Blitzway. It's
Blitzway USA.
What time is it? It's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Yeah.
And then 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So get in there early. Get your figures. Get all the Ghostbusters and your Slimer. 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The rest of the world, y'all figure it out, time zones. But no, thank you so much for having me. I'm always down to talk Space Wizards, Wookiees, and laser swords. I love me some Star Wars, and watching Empire today, I'm like, God damn it, this movie's just great. Everything about it. It's just great.
This is good. Everything about it is just phenomenal, man. But definitely, bro. Thank you for being here as always. Always appreciate it. Vinny, what's going on with you, bro?
Like I said, some fun tomorrow with the Star Wars New Hope and Orchestra. Birthday on Sunday, so I'll just be trying to chill a little bit. A little bit of catching up on some reading, and then back at it on Monday with Comic Book Talk with Friends. So we'll be talking more comic book shop then, I'm sure. And other than that, just catching up on reading, getting some more art done, and might find time to watch some Star Wars this weekend, actually. So always a pleasure. So, I mean, Empire is magic. So always fun to talk Empire Strikes Back, because it's not like just a favorite Star Wars film. It's one of my favorite films, period. Yeah, man. So see you later. You know what I'm saying?
It's the expansion. So it's a moment. You already know, bro. Well, yeah, man, definitely thank you for being here. As always, yeah, definitely, man. CC, what's going on with you?
Nothing much. It's very like same old, but I'm hoping, because I've just been working a lot, I picked up a bunch of art prints and original art.
Yeah.
So if I get my shit together, I should have time to hang that stuff up on Saturday. We'll see how that works. Because one, I have to move a 1/3 scale Prime 1 statue out of the way to get this massive Star Wars poster hung up. So wish me the best of luck. But if I do succeed in that, I'll post pictures in the Hyperdrive Star Wars group.
Yeah, let everybody know that. Like, I mean,
yeah, we post tons of stuff, and I was recently added to the admin team for that group. So it's for like if you have Hot Toys, if you collect the replicas like I do, or the art prints or art, like feel free to join and check it out. I'm working on, it's been taking up some of my time. I'm working on an art project that would hopefully mean an exclusive art print available for the group. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, it's Andor related. So
why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be, bro?
I wouldn't pick Return of the Jedi for no reason. I'm kidding.
Bro, why wouldn't it be? I mean, that show is just everything. It is everything, bro. But yeah, definitely thank you for being here as always. Chewy, what's going on with you, man?
It's another Friday. I'll be digging in a hole as usual.
My
Early,
guy.
actually. Yeah. All right. You get out of the gutter.
Never.
But
I was born in it, molded
I'm-
by it.
I have no idea where I am.
Damn, bro. Give him the opportunity. He's gonna take it. I don't know why you.
I know. I shouldn't have. Anyway. So, yeah, no, yeah, it's later than normally I've been in bed now for 2 hours, so this is great. But yeah, I was gonna, be up at work tomorrow, and then this weekend I'm gonna be at a friend of mine's place. We're actually gonna go check out a Blue Jays game.
Okay,
that'll be fun.
Word.
And then I have been derelict in my duty with the final episode of 6 Scale Archaeology. I will get that out next week.
Okay.
So next week it will be out. And then once again, I know I sound like a broken record, but we will then figure out a time to start live streaming.
Word. Well, just let me know, bro. Let me know.
You are going to be one of the first contacts I make. You, X, CC, Vinny, you guys are welcome too when I finally get it off the ground.
Yeah, let me know, man.
But yeah, it's going to be a good time. And yeah, thanks again for inviting me to join you guys tonight, because Empire Strikes Back is it like you said about Andor for TV. Empire Strikes Back is everything.
It's everything.
Just one of the greatest films ever made. And
yeah, it defines.
We all know that.
It's a defining moment, bro, in history. Yeah. Always will be. So definitely.
Thank you again.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Yeah. Tomorrow we'll be at the Man Theater watching New Hope in front of an orchestra. So that should be good. It's not expecting any rain tomorrow. I hope not.
Yeah, it should be nice. Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. Should be nice. Definitely can't wait for it. It's always an amazing. It should be cool though. It won't be as hot as it normally would be, but it should be pretty cool. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I can't wait for that. There will be Figure Flex Friday. I won't be there, but the rest of the crew will definitely be there running that. Collectors Lounge. We got to play by ear. Hopefully, they release a whole bunch of bullshit or something soon, because this week is light.
Collectors Lounge going, so anyone read any good books?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, bro.
We can talk about our Ghostbusters on Sunday.
We just talked about this yesterday, man.
I know.
Ghostbusters more. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a lot of disappointment. People going to be bitching on Sunday because they couldn't get it.
Mm-hmm. So I might be one of them. We'll see.
It's okay. You're not afraid. You will be.
You will be. That's what I'm saying. So we'll do that. Monday, of course, we got Comic Book Talk with Friends, which is definitely an interesting discussion now that we actually have a target date for the X-Men film and a director.
And the director.
The director who basically directed the Thunderbolts is now directing the X-Men films. So that's going to be interesting, and I think it'll be good. So they are standing on business with it, and I hope they continue it. I hope it doesn't become another Blade shit, and I hope this you know, everything is cool with that, man. We'll see how that's going to go. And yeah, the saga continues next week. Probably be talking about Jedi next week. We'll see how that's going to go. But other than that, man, thank you very much, everybody out there. Another an incredible episode. Remember, if you can't do anything else, man, always stay uncivilized. You guys have a nice weekend. We are out. Peace, love, and all that good stuff. Peace.
So uncivilized.